Bruins, New York Yankees. Yankees a year ago finished a game better than the Blue Jays at 92-70. Anthony Rizzo re-signed as a free agent. He's the leadoff man today. Gleyber Torres under Inciarte. Miguel Andujar is the DH. Lots of youngsters in the lineup. Shortstop Oswald Peraza. He's one of the top prospects in the Yankees organization. He will be at shortstop today, and they'll get their first look at Yusei Kikuchi.
First start of the spring for the newly acquired left-hander. Kikuchi looking to round out an excellent Blue Jays rotation. His first All-Star season last year, it was with the Mariners. Very good first half. Things dropped off in the second half, and he's going to have to figure out what went wrong. Could be a number of things, too, and it could be fatigue after that 2020 shortened pandemic season. A little fatigue kicks in and that arm drops down a little bit. Could be simply get more aggressive, and that was the message from Pete Walker, is to get after hitters and trust your stuff.
Defensively for the Blue Jays, this is almost an everyday starting lineup. Gurriel, Springer, and Grichuk in the outfield. On the left side is Chapman and Bichette. Should be a good defensive left side of the infield. Kevin Biggio trying to overcome some injuries from a year ago. Vladdy Guerrero played 133 games at first base last year, and Danny Jansen made just 54 starts. But George Springer's the key to their success in center.
First start of the spring for George. He had some at-bats in the minor league side yesterday, and this was one of the most prolific offenses in baseball, with George missing a lot of action last year. Should be even better if he can stay on the field.
Kikuchi working out of the stretch. Anthony Rizzo, a left-handed bat. Here's the first pitch, cut out and missed, and we are underway. Rizzo played in 49 games last year with the Yankees, and he did a nice job, and they just recently re-signed him. So he's happy to be back. There's his numbers with the Yankees last year. Here's the 0-1 pitch downstairs for a ball. What was the issue with Kikuchi, and what might we see that he tries to improve upon early in this spring?
Well, I think first and foremost, I have gotten a number of pitchers over the years, Buck, that have excellent stuff, but they don't trust the stuff as much as you believe in their stuff. And sometimes a pitcher just needs that nudge to say, hey, stay aggressive with the heater. He got in a little trouble with that cutter last year, so he could change the repertoire up a little bit as well. That, to me, will be one of the interesting things to look at as he moves forward this season.
Yeah, Pete Walker, the pitching coach for the Blue Jays, has always emphasized to his pitchers, especially the last 2 years, be aggressive. Sometimes we give the hitters way too much credit, and he wants his catchers to set up in the middle of the plate. They can call location, but don't move as dramatically as they have in the past. Try to keep the pitchers on the plate. Kikuchi's ahead 1-2. Upstairs, it's 2-2 now. Anthony Rizzo batting as Pete Walker. He's got to be pretty well pleased with his pitchers so far this spring. Everybody came into camp in real good shape, and so far during the course of the games, they've been throwing a lot of strikes. Pulled foul, an off-speed pitch.
So he's got the slower breaking ball and then the harder cutter. Those two breaking pitches, along with this very high-powered fastball, he'll use that up in the zone for the most part, 95 to 97 at times. He's also got a very good, very effective changeup, and that's the pitch I'm interested to see if maybe he ups the usage a little bit this season.
Kikuchi working with Danny Jansen behind the plate. Another foul off.
Very unique delivery from Kikuchi, and you see a lot of the Japanese type players with the little hesitation. It's a little pause where he really loads into that backside. Now, yesterday over at the Player Development Complex, that's the day before he's pitching in a game, he went through a complete routine over on the half field, and I was watching him throw. It was in the middle of the infield. It's just a very casual type thing, but clearly a routine that he follows the day before he pitches.
Way outside. He missed badly with that fastball. It's a full count. Well, you see that delivery, and it's really interesting. He gathers over the rubber, and you've heard pitching coaches talk about that. Stay back, gather over, get your timing and rhythm, and that'll allow you to be more consistent in the zone. That's something that we have seen often from several of the Japanese-born pitchers. Here's the full count pitch. Ball 4, he walked, and good at bat for Anthony Rizzo. Kikuchi will give up the leadoff walk. Gleyber Torres will step in, and Gleyber Torres, of course, a tough Yankee hitter, but trying to recapture the form he had a couple of years ago in 18 and 19.
And that plate appearance right there by Anthony Rizzo, that speaks volumes as to the Yankees acquiring him. And that also speaks to the way it's going to be in the AL East facing these lineups. The Yankees, the Red Sox, clearly the Blue Jays are at the top of that list. But that's a tough plate appearance to start a game off.
Again, Kikuchi misses, and so far just a release point issue. He's been scattering the ball all around the plate. Hasn't been able to really find that release point yet, but that's not surprising in his first start. An off-speed pitch that catches the inside corner. It's 1-1.
He can find that pitch right there, and throwing a few more of those early, like to Rizzo in that first plate appearance. I thought maybe after I talked about the aggressiveness, maybe he'd come out and be aggressive with the fastball early, not so much to the first hitter, but he's looking to find that release point with the spin.
And courtesy toss over to first. Rizzo's not much of a base stealing threat, although he was 2 for 2 last year. Kikuchi pitched 8 years for the Seibu Lions in the Nippon Professional Baseball Organization. Three years with the Seattle Mariners, and of course this year signed a contract, 3 years with the Toronto Blue Jays as a free agent. Rounding out what looks to be a pretty interesting starting rotation, 5-man rotation with Kikuchi and Ryu. Couple of left-handers and then 3 right-handers, headlined by Jose Barrios. Another ball inside, and Kikuchi looks like he's a little frustrated right now, not being able to find the strike zone. You know, Joe, you and I both been through spring trainings a lot, and isn't it amazing how you can throw side sessions, you can throw BP, you can throw live batting practice, but it's different when you get in a game. It is just different. There are fans in the stands. You've got your uniform on against the other team with uniforms on. Ground ball. Bo makes a grab. They go to second for 1. Bichette was playing in the hole and showed some good range as he dove and gloved it and flipped to Biggio to get the force out at second. Another thing this defense is going to learn is playing behind Kikuchi for the first time, just where exactly you have to position yourself. We've talked a lot about how Kikuchi gets a lot of ground balls to the left side of the infield, but that's when we were talking about the third baseman, Matt Chapman. Some of those ground balls will go to Bo, and that's a nice move to his left to get the one out on the play, not just knock it down, but he still gets an out. Keeps a double play in order for Kikuchi to try to get out of this inning. This is the veteran Ender Inciarte, signed as a free agent in December with the Yankees. His 8th year in the big leagues. He spent time with Arizona, of course, most recently with the Atlanta Braves. 31 years old now. Trying to find a spot on this roster as an extra outfielder. Former 2-time Gold Glover with the Braves. There's one downstairs. It's a ball and a strike to the lefty hitter. Gleyber Torres had 14 steals a year ago. Another ground ball. This one's foul up the first base side. And Torres looks like he's in pretty good shape, trimmed down a little bit. Boy, in 18 and 19, he was one of the best players in the American League. He was 3rd in rookie year voting in 2018 and finished 1 behind his teammate Miguel Andujar, who finished 2nd in the rookie year voting that year. 1-2 to Inciarte. Broken bat, little dribbler. Bichette will glove it, throw to first base high, and Vladdy makes the tag. Gurriel came off the bag to take the high throw and slapped Inciarte in the back and tagged him out. Well, Inciarte really got sawed off on that Kikuchi inside heater. And he also made a very good decision, Kikuchi did. Watch him go for this ball, but then he's going to let it go and say, wait, I'm going to leave and let my shortstop make that play. Nice play by Bo to get there, but an excellent job by Vladdy. This throw is into the runner a little bit. A dangerous play for a first baseman, but he is able to slap that tag onto the runner. Mentioned Guerrero. He made 133 starts at first. Bo Bichette played great in the second half of the season. He committed just 4 errors in his final 59 games. So with 2 outs, here's the DH, Miguel Andujar. And there's a strike on the outside corner. Andujar, he had 27 homers and 92 RBIs back in 2018 and hasn't been able to recapture that form since. A year ago, just 45 games with the Yanks. Pickoff attempt at second. It gets away from Biggio and held the tag on Torres as that ball went off his glove into center field, and Biggio just kept the tag on him as if he had the baseball in his glove.
Well, this is an excellent job by Cavan. So the play goes sideways a little bit on the Blue Jays, but watch as the ball goes by him. He is going to lead the runner astray here because he thinks the tag's on him and the ball's at second base. If the runner reacts quickly to this, and when you dive back into second base, your face should be towards center field so that you can see the errant throw. He could have gotten up and gone to third. Nice job by Cavan. Very savvy right there.
Oh, 1 pitch outside. It's a ball and a strike now. Well, and Biggio, obviously, he's been around the game his whole life, but that's another subtle play for a kid that's a baseball player. He understands, hey, if I hold my glove on him, he thinks I got the ball in my glove.
Do you think he knows any good second baseman?
He probably watched one for a while. 1-1 pitch, an off-speed pitch finds the outside corner. It's 1-2.
There really are things, and you hear coaches say, that you just can't teach. Now, those are the intangibles. And after coaching young kids for years and into high school in later years, some kids see other things on a baseball field and others don't. It's just an extra tool. And Cavan certainly sees the field.
Well, you talk about the improvement of the defense, and you can see how the left side of the infield is so deep, especially at third base. Look where Chapman is, just a step onto the dirt in front of the outfield grass. Biggio's back on the grass, as is Bichette. And there goes Torres, and a check swing. He goes around. Nope, the appeal to first. No swing by Andujar.
Well, with Chapman so deep at third, it's going to increase his range, and especially with the right-handed batter up, that's a big plus. And that bag was just stolen on Kikuchi. Watch Chapman here. He's not moving because he saw the runner took off and got a great jump. The last thing you want to do, especially with 2 outs, is to vacate your position, especially with a right-handed batter up.
Big swing and a miss for the strikeout. Kikuchi gets out of it. Andujar strikes out. When we come back, George Springer will lead things off, then Bo Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero. Let's take a look at the Blue Jays lineup. 91-71. We mentioned they finished a game behind the New York Yankees in 4th place last year. George Springer, he's the key to this team. He's got to stay healthy and stay in center field, top of the order, and then the big bats right behind him, Bichette and Guerrero. Gurriel, he may be one of the best hitters that nobody really talks about in all of baseball. Then Matt Chapman, Cavan Biggio, Randall Quitchie had a career-high 81 RBIs a year ago. Biggio and McGuire round out the lineup, and they'll face the lefty, Jordan Montgomery.
Jordan Montgomery made 30 starts for the Yankees last season. That was a career high, pitching to a 3.83 ERA, and it looks to be one of 2 left-handers in Aaron Boone's rotation, along with Nestor Cortez.
Springer is there and takes some pitch downstairs. George getting his first action in a spring game. He has had some minor league action. He has had a 3-hit game in the minor league so far. I asked him how many at-bats he needed. He says, I don't have a number. I just have a feel I'm looking for, and that's a nice start. An opposite field base hit. He pounds one against the shift. Single for George Springer.
And that swing right there is very uncharacteristic of George Springer. He's more of a pull hitter, looks to get that heater and pull it to left field, but this ball gets a little deep on him, and this could just be a timing issue. We talked about it being early. Got to see how deep that ball gets in his stance, but that's not a bad thing early in the spring to have that approach. The last thing you want to be doing is jumping out front and being early on pitches early in the spring.
Now, Bo Bichette will follow Springer with nobody out. Bo is 0 for 6 so far this spring. This is his 4th spring game, and Bo Not really concerned about the numbers. He said, you know, in the past I was worried about getting hits in the spring. Now I understand it's just a process of getting your timing down, seeing a lot of pitches, recognizing the breaking ball out of the pitcher's hands, and he's not so concerned about the numbers. Really interesting in this day and age of shifts when you look at the Yankees defense and how straight away they play Bo Bichette. That speaks to just how talented a hitter he is.
He uses the whole field, and we have seen him time and time again allowing those fastballs to get deep and shooting them through the right side.
1-1. Ground ball, foul just outside of third, and Bo kind of stumbled out of the batter's box as he took a big swing. But yeah, Bo Bichette really spreads out the defense, and that'll lead to a lot of base hits. Of course, he led the American League in hits last year. And you know what? There's been so much focus on Vladdy Guerrero Jr., rightly so. And Bo had a terrific season a year ago, hitting .298 himself. But this is quite a 2-3 punch in the batting order.
Teams will attack him often with the fastball because of his approach. It seems as though it's like he's looking soft, looking for off-speed pitches, and then he'll react to the fastball. We've seen him line balls over the first base dugout down the right field line, but that's because he's giving that pitch a long, long look, and he's so athletic he can still get to that pitch.
Now here's where he really takes a better approach with 2 strikes, man. He eliminates the leg kick. We haven't seen the leg kick early in the spring. I think he's just trying to get his timing down, so he'll utilize that 2-strike approach and keep that front foot on the ground. Guerrero will bat next. It's a full count with Springer at first after the leadoff single. Base hit, left field. Springer heads to second. He'll stop there. So Vladdy Guerrero on Saturday against the Phillies in his first at-bat of the spring.
And interesting, look at the count, 0-2. Is this Vladdy's 2-strike approach? Yeah, it's the same as his 0-0 approach. He does not have anything to go to with 2 strikes. He does not need to make an adjustment. Great hitters don't necessarily have to change their approach. Vladdy is in such a good spot when he steps into the batter's box. He can handle anything, and he clearly showed that on an 0-2 pitch.
You talk about it, what a tough division. It is historically the AL East has been a tough division, but I think it's going to ratchet it up a notch this spring. So many additions in the division, free agents, signs, new players coming in. It's going to be a terrific, fun season in the AL East. Vladdy goes after the first pitch, and Joe, that's another thing we have seen consistently from the Blue Jays. They're aggressive on the first pitch.
Aggressive on the first pitch if it's a good pitch, and that's the critical part of it. You'll see a lot of hitters in baseball. They're aggressive on the first pitch, but that doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you're chasing something just off the outside corner. If the first pitch you see in the count is a good one, these Blue Jays hitters are all over it, and the opposing pitchers know it now.
Again, just like with Bichette, the infield defense is absolutely straight away. There's no advantage to play one way or the other against Guerrero because he literally hits it foul line to foul line. Slightly shaded opposite in the outfield. One pitch. Good cut, and Guerrero, he has shown he came into camp ready to go. He was in great shape, and he's worked hard to recapture what he had a year ago.
And with good hitters like Bo and like Vladdy that get a lot of hits, generally they use the whole field. It makes it very difficult on a defense. And what it is they can be on time for the fastball. They can also handle the off-speed pitches, and that's why they are such tough outs at the plate.
Breaking ball, another good take. 2-2 now.
And there's that great plate discipline right there. It's hard to get him to chase. Now, Bo is a guy, he's much more aggressive. They're 2 very different approaches, 2 very different hitters. But look at the hits last season, leading the American League. These 2 young hitters, very good to have them on their side, but they do it differently, but still same results. They are on base an awful lot.
Of course, they have been playing together since their days in the minor leagues with the Blue Jays. Base hit left field. Springer's getting waved around third. Here comes the throw from left field. It's caught. And the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead with 3 consecutive singles to start the game. Pretty easy formula for this team. Just go up there, get your base hits. You're going to score runs, and you know the home runs are coming.
It's just so difficult to pitch to hitters like this. With Bo, you're not sure, is he sitting soft? You don't want to do that, but then do you come to the heater with Vladdy? He doesn't chase the stuff down the way, so you eventually have to come back into the zone. Well, when you come back into the zone against a hitter of this caliber, a base hit, sure, maybe you're lucky if you're Montgomery that it stayed in the ballpark, but this is a challenging lineup to face, and Jordan Montgomery is seeing that early on right now.
And here's Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hitting in the cleanup spot today. He goes after the first pitch. You know, Gurriel, like, he gets lost in the shadow of so many of these other players. But boy, oh boy, you can talk to hitting coaches, pitching coaches. Gurriel is well regarded around the American League for his ability to deliver key hits.
Lourdes has a very good approach with his swing, a very good swing path. He stays inside the baseball very well, very consistently, and what that is keeping those hands in where you really lead with the hands and the barrel trails. That keeps the bat in the hitting zone a long time. Now the one downfall, of course, that he has is he will expand the zone a little bit and chase, and pitchers can take advantage of that.
Guillermo Martinez talking with Randall Grichuk. Martinez, the young hitting coach, done a terrific job connecting with these hitters. 0-2. Fouled off. I think, too, when you see Springer and you see Bichette and Guerrero have such good at-bats with 2 strikes, it's kind of incentive for you to battle tough with 2 strikes and not give up any at-bats.
It's like a competition, and I know these Blue Jays will do that with Guillermo and Dave Hudgens. They have these games that they'll play, and there's nothing better than motivation to try to improve in certain areas, and pitch recognition and your pitch selection is a good game to play.
Another foul as he's battling tough against Montgomery. And you talk about clutch hitting. Lourdes Gurriel hit .368 last year with runners in scoring position. That was the best in the American League.
And I think part of that can be he is a very good off-speed hitter. He'll look soft, I think, a lot. He'll look spin, and he may do it again right here. He's really behind in the count, but he's the type of guy that can sit soft. Will you get beat with the fastball once in a while? Sure.
Inside. Rob Brantley, the catcher today for the Yankees. He blocked that ball and kept the runners from advancing.
What do we see time and time again with runners in scoring position from pitchers and catchers? Oftentimes they go to off speed. They go to breaking stuff. And I think Lourdes is very good at taking advantage of that strategy.
All the great RBI hitters over the years, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Miguel Cabrera, terrific breaking ball hitters, especially with 2 strikes. 1-2. Montgomery has had a long inning here in the first. Popped up. That's going to reach the seats and be well out of play. We mentioned the Yankees and Blue Jays will play 4 games this spring. The Blue Jays will go to New York after their first series in Toronto. They will play a 3-game series against Texas and then go to New York for a 4-game series against the Yankees. Alek Manoah pitched a terrific game yesterday against the Tigers. Gave up a run in the first and nothing more. First pitch taken. Been a long inning work for Jordan Montgomery. Two and two. Bichette is second. Guerrero at first, and Springer and got a foul tip off the catcher's mitt. This is the first start of the spring for Jordan Montgomery, and this is why managers and pitching coaches bring extra arms on the road in spring training. You just never know how the outing is going to go. Of course, everybody's on a pitch count early. Upstairs, full count. What an at-bat Gurriel's putting up here.
Very good indication when he can foul off close pitches, lay off those when he's really done a nice job to get back into this count, now full. And this is again where a Montgomery may stay soft against a hitter like Gurriel, but he may be ready for that.
Fly ball right field, and that ball is over the right fielder's head. Lemaire, who sets around third, he's going to score. And Gurriel will stop it there. What a terrific at bat by Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He comes up with an RBI double to the opposite field.
When you can come back from 0-2 to work a pitcher like that, it puts the hitter in an advantageous position because now you feel like the aggressor gets a good pitch out over the plate. And this is another good indication with 2 strikes. He's not trying to pull that baseball. He's not going to left field. He's staying on it because with 2 strikes, what you're trying to do is allow that ball to get deep so that you don't get fooled and swing at something out of the zone. Great, great at bat by Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Still nobody out here in the first. Second and third for Matt Chapman. He takes one down and in. Chapman homered in his Blue Jays debut here a couple days ago. Last year had a powerful season. 27 home runs. 23 of those home runs were solo shots. Might be a different story hitting in this lineup this year with the Blue Jays. 1-0. Two and out. Joe, I got to ask you, as a hitter, when you see so many good hitters around you, does that allow you to relax a little bit, thinking that I don't have to be the man? I'm surrounded by a lot of men in this lineup.
And I think it makes you more so feel like I want to join the party. I can be like those guys. And we know Matt Chapman's got the ability to be one of the big boys in this lineup. Doesn't matter where he's hitting.
3-0. Well, Blue Jays, they have been aggressive, but as you mentioned earlier and pointed out, selectively aggressive.
Yeah, and I don't think Matt Chapman may be different in a spring training game here, but he should not get anything to hit here with the open base and the left-handed hitting Kevin Biggio on deck for Montgomery.
He takes a strike, and we have seen it in the past, and I'm sure Chapman will find it true that Charlie Montoyo trusts his hitters. He trusts his hitters to hit 3-0. He will give them the right to make the judgment, swing or take. Now it's 3-1. Still nobody out. We're in the bottom of the first. There's a drive to left field, and Inciarte makes a nice running catch. Vladdy tags at third, and Chapman will pick up an RBI with a sacrifice fly. It's 3-0 Blue Jays.
Even the outs are allowed this inning, this time off the bat of Matt Chapman. But again, he got himself into a very good position. And what do? You get yourself a good pitch to hit. The pitch selection is as important as anything else throughout the course of the at bat. And Matt Chapman almost drilled this into the gap. Ball's hit very hard.
Now, Jordan Montgomery's first outing of the spring is a very short one. He leaves having retired just one batter. Blue Jays with a 3-0 lead early. Get online and make sure you check it out. Visit BlueJays.com to get that leadoff by now. Well, we've got a pitching change here with just one out in the bottom of the third. The Blue Jays have a 3-0 lead. They've scored 3 runs on 4 hits and a sac fly, and the new pitcher is Braden Bristow. Bristow is 27 years old. He'll face Kevin Biggio with 1 out and a man at second, and Biggio takes a first pitch strike in there. Bristow pitched at Louisiana Tech and was drafted by the Yankees. 23rd round back in 2016, and he has pitched 5 seasons in the minor leagues. Trying to cool off the Blue Jays here in the first inning. Swung on and missed by Biggio. He's behind 0-2.
Biggio probably not expecting the left-hander to leave the game and see a right-hander, but that is spring training, and Aaron Boone had enough in terms of a workload for Jordan Montgomery in this first inning. And that is why you bring the extra arms to help you bail out of some tough innings.
There's a liner over the glove of Torres into right field. Gurriel had to hold up to make sure it was down safely in right, and Biggio has the 5th Blue Jay hit this inning.
Well, they say hitting is contagious, and right now it is indeed that in this first inning for the Blue Jays. Gurriel is a runner on second base. You have to be very cautious there. When that ball's hit on a line, you have to make sure you don't just freeze. You actually go back to the second base bag. Watch his move. His first move was a little bit back toward the second base bag, and then once it goes through, you advance your 90 feet. Oftentimes you'll hear people say freeze on a line drive. If you freeze, you'll probably get doubled off. Nice job by Gurriel there.
So Biggio has a base hit. Here's Randal Grichuk. Grichuk enjoyed a fine season a year ago with a career-high 81 RBIs. He goes after the first pitch and fouls it back into the screen. Randall is now 30 years old. This is his 5th season with the Blue Jays. There are his numbers from a year ago. 22 home runs and 81 RBIs. And, Joe, there was a time in the middle of the season where you couldn't get Randall out.
He got into a groove there where I thought he was getting better at hitting the off-speed pitches, the breaking pitches, laying back a little bit. We saw him shoot the other way every once in a while. We know he's got power and can hit a fastball.
0-1. Takes a breaking ball just off the plate outside. Randall's in his 9th big league season. He came up with the Cardinals back in 2014. We mentioned this will be his 5th year with the Blue Jays. He's had some good seasons, including 31 home runs and 80 RBIs in 19, and then 22 and 81 last year. Ball and a strike, and that one's way outside for ball 2.
Chasing those breaking balls has always been his Achilles heel. He'll expand the zone. He certainly can hit the fastball, but when you're such a good fastball hitter, if you're looking for it and you get it, that's great. But when you don't, you're leaving yourself susceptible to the secondary pitches, and that's when Randall has his struggles, and his on-base percentage clearly shows that.
There's a cutter. He swings and misses. That was off the plate. He goes after it. It's 2-2. Here's a thought for you. I wonder if Jordan Montgomery's going to come back and pitch the second inning.
That could happen.
We saw that with Barrios in his first start against the Orioles this year. He had an extended first inning. Came back to pitch the second inning after a relief pitcher came on to finish the first, and then threw 2 more outs in the second inning. So we might see Jordan Montgomery come back. I mean, everything is relaxed this spring, especially.
That is a rule in spring training. They are allowed to do that, and it's a very good idea. You do not want one of your starting pitchers out there for 40 pitches. That's just too much, and that's where, especially early in the spring, you're susceptible to injury. So yeah, he threw his close to 30. He could easily come back.
Here's the 2-2 to Grichuk. Biggio's on the move. Ball's outside. Throw is low in the dirt, and Cavan has another stolen base. Blue Jays have been running, man. They are running on their own. Charlie Montoya has given the runners the green light, and he trusts them to pick good spots to run, and Biggio picks up another steal.
Well, you're there for a number of pitches. You get a look at the pitcher and what his times are to the plate, how he's hesitating, and I think Cavan picked up on something, got a great jump. And these Blue Jays will run. You're right. Not as much of that in the game anymore.
Another great opportunity for Grichuk, because the infield for the Yankees has come in on the edge of the grass. That really limits their ability to range left to right. 3-2, 1 out, second and third for the Jays. Randall takes one on the corner for a called strike 3. That slider caught the outside corner. That's the second out of the inning.
Well, Randall did not chase this one. Thought it was off the plate away. Pretty good pitch right there, but it's those little things in the game. Biggio's stolen base right there. It changes the entire inning in terms of the Yankees now forced to bring the infield in. It does make it better on a hitter, even though it didn't work out right there for Grichuk. But the Blue Jays are not afraid to take advantage of a stolen base if the opportunity presents itself.
Here's the catcher, Danny Jansen. He goes after the first pitch and fouls it back. Jansen hit .223 a year ago. You can see he played in only 70 games, as he was on the injured list twice with hamstring issues. Both times running the bases, he blew out a hammy and had extended time on the injured list. So he really worked hard on strengthening his legs during the offseason and hopes to avoid spending any time on the IL. The looping ball into center field. The infielders are back. Torres will get there and make the play, and the inning is over. But the Blue Jays score 3 runs on 5 hits in the first and take a 3-0 lead over New York. Pitching with a 3-0 lead, he'll work to Estevan Florial, the center fielder for the Yankees. Florial is 24 years old. He's had a couple of cups of coffee with the Yankees, but hasn't secured a regular spot yet. Kikuchi delivers the first pitch, strike. You mentioned Florial. He's a center fielder. He had limited at bats last year. You can see just 11 games. He hit 300 with a home run. Big swing and a miss to the breaking ball. Kikuchi had command issues in the first inning, and he has thrown 2 good pitches here to start the second. You can see the dramatic shift as now Bo moves back to the third base side of second, something the Blue Jays do consistently once the hitter gets to 2 strikes. Swung on and missed, a strikeout for Kikuchi, his first of the afternoon.
Well, this is the issue Kikuchi had last season. He was an all-star after putting up excellent numbers in the first part of the season, the first half, and that July 1st start was the one we showed earlier. It was against the Blue Jays in Buffalo, but not so good in the second half, and that is when Pete Walker and his staff have to go down and get to do some homework and figure out what went wrong. And I still think when you look at a pitcher like Kikuchi, he was after the shortened pandemic season. Did fatigue kick in? That can happen, because one thing we did notice too is we saw a little drop in his release point. And you know, as a catcher, Buck, you start seeing that pitcher's arm drop. Even sometimes throughout the course of a ball game, you see that, and the first thing the light bulb goes on that maybe they're fatiguing a bit. So that could have been a factor. But whatever it is, they'll try to figure it out. Always worry about pitchers tipping in the game today. That's rampant around the league, especially with the use of so much video.
Now, we will have a chance to visit with Pete Walker today in the bottom of the 4th inning, so we'll get some more insight on Yusei Kikuchi and some of the other pitchers that he has seen so far in this camp. This is Jose Peraza, a veteran infielder. He spent last season with the New York Yankees. Excuse me, the Mets. Now he's with the Yankees, of course. Kikuchi showing much better command here in his second inning of work today. For his career, Yusei is 3-10 after the All-Star break over 3 seasons with the Seattle Mariners. So there might be something to that. And a foul tip. Danny Jansen couldn't hang on to it. Peraza, over his career, has been kind of a utility player, bouncing around from position to position. And of course, with the Yankees, you look at the lineup with Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa taking over the left side. That'll move Torres to second and put DJ LeMahieu in a utility role. Bounced in the dirt.
Utility slash finding a way to get in the lineup. DJ LeMahieu,
batting champ and a Gold Glover. He's got to move around, but that shows you just how deep the Yankees think they are at the start of this season. Two and two count to Peraza. Got out and missed. A little foul tip. Jansen was able to hang on, and back-to-back strikeouts for Kikuchi here in the second.
Kikuchi will not throw a ton of fastballs. Last year he was just under 40%, but he likes his slider and cutter. Look at the high target that time by Jansen, and he wants it up there. It comes down a little bit, but you'll see a catcher present the target a little bit higher if you want to come inside with that either four-seam fastball or the cutter. A little vertical break on that pitch right there, maybe a little more than normal.
The batter is Ryan Lemaire, the right fielder. And there's another strike, and Kikuchi seems to have ironed out his command issues. He's pounding that zone here in the second.
That's the bigger breaking ball right there. Good spin, especially as a first pitch to a hitter. A right-handed hitter is not looking for that at all from a lefty first pitch.
Another strike, a swinging foul back off the bat of Lemaire. The hesitation in Kikuchi's delivery has to be a little challenging for the hitters, because you see the pause and then you kind of get relaxed, and then boom, he'll touch 96, 97. That ball gets on you.
And the one thing that's interesting about it, it's consistent. You'll see other pitchers sometimes alter their deliveries, but His is the same, so that could make it a little bit more comfortable for a hitter, but still not the norm. And you certainly have to adjust every fifth day when you face this lefty.
Cut out and missed. How about Kikuchi striking out the side in the second? Whatever was an issue in the first has been resolved early. Now, Jordan Montgomery did not leave the ballpark. He is back in to get some more work in his first outing of the spring. He left after facing 5 batters because of his pitch count, and he took a break, and here he is for the second. He'll face Reese McGuire, who's the DH this afternoon, batting in the 9th spot. And he jumps back from the inside pitch. Reese, a year ago, hit .253 for the Blue Jays, had a homer and 10 RBIs.
I thought it was the other guy.
He was actually designated for assignment out of spring training last year, went through waivers, and ended up starting the season at Buffalo. And as we mentioned, he got into a lot of action last year. Blue Jays are pretty well set in their catching depth. Danny Jansen, Reese McGuire, and Alejandro Kirk all got action last year in the big leagues. Alejandro Kirk's off to a good start with the bat. He's swinging the bat very well once again. 2-1 to McGuire, fouled straight back.
And it does not change. Reese McGuire out of options again this spring. And I spoke to him yesterday over at the Player Development Complex, and he kind of just grimaced and thought, you know, I never seem to be part of the conversation. And it's because Alejandro Kirk's bat has impressed everyone so much.
2-2. I played 17 seasons like that.
Get used to it, Reese.
I was never part of the conversation. Full count to Reese McGuire. George Springer waits on deck.
It'd be a nice problem for Charlie Montoya to have at the end of camp, because with McGuire out of options, you can have a righty Jansen and lefty McGuire in the big leagues and give Kirk a chance to play some more. That's the easy thing to say, because Alejandro came from A-ball when he made his major league debut. He could still play some more baseball and develop, both at the plate and behind it, of course. But the bat is enticing. You could use him as a DH on occasion.
Another hard hit ball, but right to the second baseman, Torres, who is shaded up the middle. Oh, actually, that's Peraza, the shortstop, who made the play. So Reese McGuire hits one hard, but right into the shift.
But I think if Reese keeps having at-bats like that, he does a nice job behind the plate. I still like having that right-handed, left-handed hitting combo. It's easy to get excited about Alejandro Kirk, and we saw it here the other day. He's such a good young hitter, so advanced at the plate, but repetitions and experience could do him some wonders.
Little chopper to third, and the third baseman, Peraza, can't handle it. Jose Peraza playing the third. Oswald Peraza, the young prospect, playing at shortstop. And George Springer will have an infield hit. He's 2 for 2.
Well, George will take it. He got beat with the fastball in his first AB, shooting it the other way, and gets a little soft grounder to get himself on board a second time. But these are the types of ABs, and I said earlier, George got some at-bats in the minor league complex earlier. You have to keep getting these, keep playing in the game, keep getting at-bats, keep facing live pitching to prepare for that opener April 8th.
Bo Bichette picked up his first hit of the spring last time up. He scored the second Blue Jay run in the first inning. Big numbers a year ago, as we mentioned. He scored 100, drove in 100, and was 25 for 26 in stolen bases. You know, it's kind of interesting, Joe. You and I hear it all the time, and everybody says, well, you know, who's going to play shortstop eventually? Bo Bichette, for me, folks, I'm telling you what, he does everything you want from a shortstop. Yeah, he might not be as flashy as the late Tony Fernandez or Omar Vizquel, but boy, he catches it.
But I think last year was critical for Bo, because he had the struggles early, and that's when all the question marks came in. And can he be the future shortstop? Does he have the range? Does he have the arm? Then he started struggling. He was missing a few in the glove. The throws were becoming errant, but he slowly got better throughout the course of the season. We saw the improvements, and then what he does at the plate speaks volumes. So you put all that together and it's like, well, wait a minute. By the end of last season, he's one of the better shortstops in baseball, offensively and defensively.
As we showed you earlier, he got the most hits in the major leagues. And overall for the season, he committed 24 errors. But only 4 errors in his final 59 games of the season. That's what you want to see, an improvement.
And then the impact maybe Matt Chapman can have on the left side of that infield. We talked about how deep Matt plays and covers some ground laterally to his left. Maybe help Bo to his right a little bit. And we already saw that.
This is a picture early in the spring, and you'll notice that the sun isn't up yet. And Bo and Louis Rivera are working, and they covered infield there at the Player Development Center. And that's a terrific shot, and just gives you an idea how motivated Bo Bichette is to get better. I mean, it was literally before sunup, and he was taking ground balls. He goes around. He tried to check his swing, but he's called for a swing, and he will be called out on strikes. But the whole thing about Bo, and I was there that day, actually took that picture, and the grass all around the complex was soaking wet with dew and humidity. But he said, hey, Louis, let's go to work. And they started work. Literally, that was at 7:15 in the morning, taking ground balls.
There are so many things that go on early. Sometimes they go on later. But that picture was spectacular, because when you told me that he was up before the sun getting ground balls, I thought you were exaggerating. Maybe it's around 9. And then you showed me the picture. He was up before the sun getting ground balls.
Here's Vladdy Guerrero. First pitch swinging again, and he rips it into center. So Vladdy is 2 for 2, a couple of singles, and you know what? He hits so many line drives right back up the middle. And I tell you, these two guys, one of them is going to win a batting title before they're all said and done.
Well, mechanically, he is so sound. And then when you bring into the fact that he has tremendous plate discipline, he doesn't expand a whole lot. And then you start talking about a guy that walks almost as much as he can strike out, because that's the type of hitter he can be. And, you know, aside from Mr. Ohtani out in L.A., this guy's got MVP written all over him. And we can argue that one, by the way.
We can argue it, and so can Anthony Rizzo. He told us that during batting practice today. And we'll get more into that as this game goes on. 2 outs, first and second for the Blue Jays. 3-0. They lead the Yankees as Lourdes Gurriel, he picked up a double with an RBI to right field his first time up. Takes one down for a ball. Gurriel made some subtle adjustments last year mid-season. He backed off the plate a little bit, and Joe, it had an interesting impact for him.
He's a guy that will chase. He'll expand the zone, similar to when we had the discussion about Randall Grichuk. They will chase that righty slider down and away, so he backed away from the plate just a hair.
The ball gets away, and that'll be a wild pitch charged to Montgomery.
The thought was that if you back off the plate just a hair, now when that slider is just off the plate away, it looks further away, so you may lay off it. And these are things that hitters do. They'll try all these different things to try to gain an edge. And for him, and for any hitter, a huge edge would be laying off that slider off the plate away. You can't hit it.
And when you're off the plate a bit, it looks so far away, you don't even offer at it. 2-0. 2 outs. Cut on and missed. It's 2-1 now. So I asked Lourdes about that move earlier this spring, and he said, yeah, he said, now I feel like that ball is so far away it doesn't even look like anything I should swing at. And that's a subtle move, as he's getting better and better with each at bat.
That move, Buck, reminds me of, and you'll probably remember this conversation. We were around the batting cage at the Rogers Center with Edwin Encarnacion several years ago. And pitchers continually pounded him on the outside corner, and he couldn't get to it. He couldn't reach it. And I remember the conversation being, well, you've got to get closer to the plate. I mean, it sounds like you're talking about Little League and 11 and 12-year-olds, but you have to be able to cover that pitch if they're going to continue to pound you there, and he did that.
2-2 pitch. Popped out of play over the screen. And, you know, Joe, you are around these hitters all the time, and you played at a different time when guys were open to change and would make changes midstream in at bats, during games, during a particular week. But in this day and age, these hitters get so locked into a routine. kind of reluctant to change, and it takes something dramatic for them to make adjustments. Guillermo Martinez has been a terrific young hitting coach, gaining the confidence of all these hitters.
And I think as a hitting coach, it's your job, and it's important to identify the weakness, suggest what that weakness is and how we can overcome it and correct it. Now what you have to do is get that hitter to buy in, but that communication is so critical, because if you're going to tell me a certain way and I don't really believe it, it's not happening. But now if you kind of massage it to say we can make this better, then you convince me to make that change. Another good plate appearance by Gurriel.
Second time today. He's had a 3-2 count. He doubled the last time it was 3-2. This time he takes ball 4.
It's hard sometimes to think, well, I may change this to improve the pitch away, but what if that hurts me on the pitch in? You're always thinking negatively when you're thinking about a weakness.
So this time for sure Jordan Montgomery is done, but he got his pitch count in. He has his work for his first outing, and he will leave with 2 outs here in the second. Blue Jays with an early 3-0 lead. Kevin Biggio will hit when we come back. The Springer around, it keeps you going, boy. He won't let anybody take a minute off, and he does it with so much joy and so much energy. He's a real pleasure to be around.
And he keeps Vladdy in check. Over at the complex the other day, he was walking over from field 1 to field 2, and Vladdy was just innocently working some PFPs with the pitchers, but he happened to be standing listening to a coach at a time. And George said, Vladdy, you're standing around doing nothing again. Let's go. And they had the jabs going back and forth, but that's especially in spring training. You get that feel. They got a great culture going on over at that complex.
The new pitcher for the Yankees is Vinny Natoli. He's 31 years old, originally drafted by the Seattle Mariners out of Xavier University in Cincinnati. Natoli got some time with the Mariners last year, pitched in just 1 game. That's his only big league experience, and he faces Matt Chapman, who had a sac fly back in the first. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Ball is popped up into shallow center. Gleyber Torres, the second baseman, is out on the grass. He makes the catch, and Natoli leaves the bases loaded. The Blue Jays have a 3-0 lead. 2-year-old right-hander. Stripling came over to the Blue Jays midseason in 2020. And last year he proved to be a very valuable guy, going back and forth between the bullpen and occasional starter. Put up decent numbers a year ago.
Well, I think that's where his value is, and Ross knows that. He is a veteran guy that's done both. He's started and he's relieved, and especially when you can come out of the bullpen and give multiple innings, maybe come in for 2 1/3 to save a starter maybe that had some struggles.
Ross delivers a first pitch strike to Rob Brantley, the Yankees catcher.
There will be ample opportunity, I think, in the month of April, Buck, as well, with a lot of baseball happening for all of these teams that are having the abbreviated spring training. There could be starters that might need to skip a start, so he may have to be inserted there. Maybe a doubleheader that might need to be played. You'll need a spot starter.
Now, Blue Jays have a tough schedule in April, not only because of who they play, but they only have 1 off day, and they play 10 straight days to start the season. So it's a pretty demanding schedule, and there have been conversations about the prospects of maybe using 6 starters early in the season.
And I know Major League Baseball is still talking about it. Aaron Boone discussed that today when we were speaking to him in the Yankees third base dugout this morning, is that they may still expand the rosters just a bit. He thought it'd be a good idea when I asked him, even for the first few weeks of the season, just to help teams get out of the whole spring training routine and build pitchers up and build hitters up at their at-bats.
Well, Aaron Boone in his 5th season as the Yankee manager. He's had some changes on his coaching staff. He's had quite a early start. A little tapper out in front of home. Jansen's on it quickly, and Brantley's retired. Yusei Kikuchi, he had a rough start to the game, but boy, did he finish up on a strong note.
Well, we saw all 4 pitches from him. A little bit of troubles early in the first inning, but the fastball was lively right there, and we'll see him spin the bigger breaking ball, the cutter, and he'll mix in a changeup. But when you throw that high-powered fastball generally up in the zone, there's the cutter right there, and you can see just under the hands of those right-handed batters. The stuff is there, Buck. We've seen it. Everybody has seen it, but now it's how do you stay strong throughout the course of an entire season?
He struck out the last 4 Yankees he faced this afternoon and finished up on a real positive note. Remember, we'll have a chance to visit with the pitching coach Pete Walker in the bottom of the 4th inning, and we'll get his assessment of the Kikuchi outing. This is Oswald Peraza, the young shortstop. Peraza is from Barquisimeto, Venezuela, one of the top shortstop prospects in all of baseball. Hit .297 a year ago, over 3 levels in the minor leagues for the Yankees. A defensive position, but he's got some power. 18 home runs and 58 RBIs for the season. Signed as a 17-year-old. This is his 5th season in the Yankees system. Two balls and a strike. Bouncing ball, gloved by Chapman. Long throw, just in time. Well, folks, get used to that. You're going to see a lot of those tough plays made look easy by Matt Chapman.
It's an out. Hit it to the left side, you're out. That's the plan for Charlie Montoya. Look where he's playing again, very deep. Bo could come and get this ball, but clearly he plays so deep that he ranges a few steps to his left. But as I noted the other day when I watched Matt taking ground balls on one of the practice fields, very good footwork as well, and that's what gets you in position to make the accurate throw.
And he was very patient. He took a tough hop and caught it down around his hip, but just calmly turned around and fired it across the diamond. Back to the top of the order. This is Anthony Rizzo, who drew a walk his first time up. We mentioned we had a conversation with Rizzo before the game, and he talked about Vladdy Guerrero not winning the MVP award, and he felt like he got robbed. He said, for me, Vladdy was the MVP. He said, Ohtani was a great player, but Vladdy, for me, was the MVP of the league.
And I think Rizzo is in that camp where he doesn't think the pitching should necessarily help Ohtani. And of course, the guy is a freak of nature. More power to him, but Rizzo used the word, he cheated. Ohtani cheated. You can't be that good on both sides of the ball.
But he also talked about how challenging it was for Guerrero to put up those types of numbers and come up short in an MVP voting. He said now he's got to try to improve upon that. 2-1 to Rizzo. He fouls this one straight back.
Well, Vladdy is just such a complete hitter, and you talk about his approach at the plate. He is so fundamentally sound with his swing mechanics, but then tremendous pitch recognition. He forces pitchers into the zone, and when you force them into the zone, you're almost setting them up. And then that's when he does his damage, but it's not going to change. Vladdy did it all over the place last year, playing in 3 different ballparks. He will be happy to set up camp at the Rogers Center this year for home games.
High pop up behind short. Chapman ranging over and makes the catch, and Rizzo's retired. Good inning for Ross Stripling in his first work this spring
for this club. And I think quietly too, Buck, we're talking so much about his glove because his hitting was down last year after coming back from hip surgery. I think what he can do offensively in this lineup is going to help a tremendous amount.
No question about it. And like we said before, he doesn't have to be the man, but he and the Blue Jays came to an agreement today on a contract, a 2-year contract for what, $25 million?
He was eligible for arbitration. He would have been this year and again for 1 more year before free agency. Instead of just settling on 1 year, they settled on 2. So that gives the team some cost control and gives Matt Chapman some security.
Boy, it sure does. And you talk about for a player, now he knows not only is he going to play here this year, but he's going to play here next year. So he can really plant his roots with this ball club and the organization. And I tell you what, this front office continues to do a lot of real good things. Not only the quality of the player they're bringing in, but the quality of the people they have brought into this organization. It's outstanding.
And it's one thing to have to send players to Oakland for Matt Chapman, but I'm sure that trade was much easier for Ross Atkins when you know you've got a person like Matt Chapman coming your way.
Yeah, we were fortunate to have him after his game in the opening game we had on television on Sunday. And boy, what a Interesting young man with a lot to say. He gives you some great answers. He speaks from his heart, and it's going to be great to get to know him a little bit better as the season goes on.
And Matt gets to experience the AL East now coming from Oakland, because this division is going to be about as tough as ever. We talk about it every year. We've been talking about it for years, and that was mentioned to Aaron Boone this morning too. He said, look, the AL East is always a grind, but when you look around now, and I agreed with him, because the lineups, even the Yankees lineup right now, and speaking with Anthony Rizzo this morning as well, but what the Red Sox have done, the Rays, what are they going to do? Well, they'll probably be right there just like they are every year. It's just you're waiting for them to fall back, but it doesn't seem to happen.
You know, you talk about the impact of Matt Chapman, and here's a guy that's going to feel that impact first and foremost. Cavan was asked to play third base last year in spring training, and it just never looked like he was comfortable. The action at third defensively is very quick and much different than that of playing second. And then he banged up his fingers in the spring, and he just never really seemed right playing at third. And here he gets a base hit in front of the right fielder, Lemire. Kevin Biggio's 2 for 2. But he's back at second base, where he had his great breakthrough with the Blue Jays. And they talk about his versatility, but I think he profiles very well as a second baseman.
He does, and when you look at both Biggio and Santiago Espinal, two great guys to have. I don't want to say at the bottom of your roster, but those are the guys that can play some second base, but they can also play around. Cavan can go in the outfield if you need him to, and that's very valuable that he's so versatile. Espinal the same way, can play shortstop if Bo needs a day off, or if he's out for any length of time. So good backups. Both those players that'll probably see some time at second base.
Here's Randal Grichuk. He was called out on a slider his first time up. Pops this one out of play. Cavan had a stolen base back in the first inning, and we mentioned he's only been caught once in his big league career. Got terrific judgment. He's not the fastest guy on the Blue Jays, but boy, he picks his spots very well.
And you mentioned Bo Bichette last year, what, 25 for 26 stealing bases. So if you do it smartly, you pick your right spots. Stealing bases is a wonderful thing. Simeon did it too. He stole 15 out of 16.
A liner into center field, but that's right at Florial, and the center fielder makes the grab. Grichuk is retired, one down. Well, we've talked about it early on in the spring, but it seems as though baseball in general a little more aggressive on the bases this spring. They're running a little bit more frequently than we have seen in past springs.
Well, and I think even over the last number of years, we've seen the stolen base go by the wayside. You just have not seen it over the last number of years, and part of that is the analytics showing that it's not worth trying to steal a base if you're not going to be successful a high percentage of the time. Well, to me, that's a lot of logic. If you think you got a 50-50 chance, it's probably not a good time to gamble. But at the same time, if you've got Garrett Cole on the mound and he's throwing a gem in the 6th or 7th inning, you've got to take a shot once in a while. Maybe you're going to time him up and try to steal that bag to gain 90 feet, and then maybe a bloop single scores a run. So you do have to get creative. It's not easy, and it won't look good if you get thrown out. But that's the part of baseball, I think, that you have to consider.
Danny Jansen rips one into the alley. That's over Lemire's head up against the wall. Biggio's headed for third. He's getting the wave. Here's the throw from Torres at second base. It is not in time. They go to third, and Danny is called out at third base, but a terrific job by Louis Rivera, waving home Biggio as he scores all the way from first on the double by Jansen.
Well, this is an excellent piece of hitting by Danny, and he's talked about becoming more of a pull-type hitter because he feels that's what he does best. But I love this path right here. Stayed inside that ball, shot it to right field. But this is not a bad thing at all by Jansen. There's nobody out. He does make the second out. There's one out. He makes the second out. By going on here, Biggio's getting the wave home. By Jansen continuing on to third, you force that catcher to come away from the plate. So now there's no play at the plate. He slides in safely, even though Jansen is out at third base. He forced the play. I'm okay with that. That's not a base running mistake to me. That's an aggressive move.
Especially where you are in the lineup. Down at the bottom of the order, go ahead and play aggressively. It's not like you got all the stacked hitters at the top of the order. Number 9 hitter Reese McGuire now batting with Nobody on and 2 outs. McGuire lined out to the shortstop in the shift his first time up. 4-0 Blue Jays, bottom of the 3rd inning. Fly ball into shallow left field. And CRT is there. McGuire's retired. The Blue Jays get another run on 2 hits. They take it a 4-0 lead. As Rowdy Tellez, he was decked out pretty. Looks like snazzy hat he had on there, huh?
I thought it looked like he was wearing his baseball pants.
Rowdy Tellez, of course, with the Milwaukee Brewers now. Big part of this system coming through the minor leagues with all those players, and they still stay very close. Ross Stripling working in his 2nd inning of work. Gives up a liner just past the outstretched glove of Bo Bichette as Gleyber Torres reaches with a leadoff single here in the 4th. You know, Ross Stripling last year was late coming to spring training. His wife was giving birth to their child and he stayed home. He had kind of an abbreviated spring, and it really caught up to him because he went on the injured list right out of spring training in April. He started the season but then went on the IL, and he spent from April 12th to May 1st on the injured list, just simply as a product of having kind of a shortened spring training. Here's Ender Inciarte. He goes after the first pitch and rips it down into the right field corner. Torres is around second, headed for third. Goodchick plays it back in, and Inciarte has a stand-up double. The Yankees come out swinging here in the 4th. They get a single from Torres and a double from Inciarte.
Pitch up in the zone a little bit to Inciarte, and this is where Ross has to bear down. And with a 4-0 lead, this has the makings of a big inning for the Yankees. So this is when it's all about damage control. If you're Ross Stripling on the mound, don't try to get greedy and strike everybody out, but limit them. Maybe if you can limit them to 1 run right here. Those are the things that win ball games after 9 innings.
Just kind of minimize the damage here. First and second, nobody out. This is Miguel Andujar. He's a wild swinger. He struck out to end the top of the 1st. He struck out against Kikuchi, the first of 4 straight. Struck out by Kikuchi in his outing. Kikuchi went 2 innings. Didn't give up a hit, walked a batter, and struck out 4. It's off-speed pitch down for a ball. It's 1-1. We will see after Stripling, in no particular order, Trevor Richards, Trent Thornton, Kyle Johnson, and Casey Lawrence. That's the plan for the rest of the pitching for the Blue Jays this afternoon. Ground ball, Chapman. He looks the runner back at second. Andujar is retired. Torres comes in to score. The Yankees are on the board. It's now 4-1 Blue Jays.
That's exactly what I'm referring to right there, Buck. Don't try to get greedy and strike everybody out. You give up a ground ball, it scores a run, but Matt Chapman did a great job holding the runner at second base. So now Ross can just go about his business, try to get 2 outs with that runner on second base. That's what that veteran savvy is, where you can not try to be a hero. A young pitcher on the mound, oftentimes I remember catching, they're just going to rear back and I got to get out of this. Well, no sooner do you walk somebody and the bases are loaded, and then all heck breaks loose.
Well, and 2, you give up a single and a double to start the inning. You got to think, okay, I'm probably going to give up a run here, but you can't let the Yankees just have a huge inning, and especially pitching for this Blue Jays team. You know they're going to score runs, so just minimize the damage of those leadoff hits and say, okay, I'll give up 1. I don't want to give up 2, but nothing more than that.
But a veteran pitcher understands that more than a young pitcher out there that's just trying to impress. Those are the aspects of the game that are so difficult to comprehend for young players because they just haven't been there. They haven't done it enough.
Yeah, and especially here in spring training. And Pete Walker knows he's not concerned about Ross Stripling's earned run average. He's concerned about watching the quality of his pitches and seeing how he's commanding the strike zone. There's another pickoff attempt. The Blue Jays are going to do that quite often here in the spring just to get the timing down. Kikuchi had a pickoff attempt back in the first inning.
I'm sure it's a purpose going out there with each pitcher. You'd like them, if they're going to be out there for a couple of innings, somebody gets on, try one. They just want them. They do it with pitchers fielding practice all the time over at the player development complex, but try to do it in the game to try to get that timing down.
Runner is going to third. Jansen's throw is a good one, and Chapman takes the tag and holds on to the baseball. Inciarte, very aggressive, trying to sneak third base, and Stripling didn't look him back. He had a big jump, but Jansen throws a strike. And Matt Chapman hung in there. He may have gotten spiked as he's looking at his left arm, and he hung in there, and he's probably going to have the trainer look at it. Bo Bichette's waving the training staff out, and it looks like he may have gotten bloodied as he takes a strike and takes a spike in his forearm.
Well, the throw was into the runner just enough that Matt was kind of stuck. He had to just catch the ball and drop his glove down to apply the tag. Unfortunately, you're applying the tag in front of some spikes that are coming into your forearm.
So that's going to be the end of the day for Matt Chapman. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but he's going to get some medical attention and take care of that left forearm that spiked, putting the tag on Inciarte.
Well, watch the jump that Inciarte gets. So that's on the pitcher, Ross Stripling, but Danny did a great job. But see where the throw is. The throw is a couple of feet into the runner. So as a third baseman, you get to the bag, and then he was just stuck. He had to just reach for the baseball, and your glove is just stuck there. And then the runner slides right into him. Sometimes you'll get his shin or the top of his shoe. Unfortunately, Chapman looks like he got his spikes.
So the new third baseman is Santiago Espino. Sebastian Espino, excuse me. He is a minor leaguer just up for this game today, and he's going to get a chance to play in a big league spring training game
with all the big boys in there.
He has not been with the Blue Jays throughout the course of the spring, but with the Chapman injury, he's going to take over defensively at third base. The ball is popped out of play.
That's something that pitchers have to continue to work on. You cannot let the runner on second base get dancing around back there and get a great jump, because with the jump that Inciarte got, he should have stolen that third base bag, but then he got a great pitch to throw on. Good tag by Chapman.
Well, and two, we have said this throughout the spring. It seems as though, and I know it's spring training, but it seems as though teams are focused a little bit more on stealing bases. And you know what that's going to do? Not only does it get in the head of the pitcher, but it's going to straighten out the shifts. You're going to have to be a little more aware of the possibility of a stolen base. There's a strike. It's 3-2 now to Florial, the center fielder. Florial struck out his first time up against the left-hander Kikuchi. There you see the alignment. A dramatic shift as Kevin Biggio is out in right field. Called strike three. Stripling delivers a good fastball on the outside corner. Florio strikes out. Pete Walker, the pitching coach, will join us when we come back here to TD Ballpark in Dunedin. Out and give us your assessment of what you saw from Kikuchi.
Yeah, Buck, I thought it was great, to be honest with you. He actually admitted to some nerves prior to the outing, which is interesting. You know, a veteran guy that's been around, but it's still, you know, anytime you're with a new team and trying to show everybody what you got, it's a little nerve-wracking. But he said he settled down, and especially in the second inning, I thought he used his stuff well. I like the shape of his slider. It acts more like a curveball, to be honest with you, a bigger breaking ball. He was able to throw for strikes, and I thought he settled down in that second inning, and we saw some power to that fastball.
Pete, with his 4 pitches, what is it that you like most? Is there any thought of changing the usage at all? Liking his fastball more, less cutter, anything particularly that you're seeing early?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to let him pitch a little bit. We certainly have some ideas, and we've expressed those. We've had some good conversations already with Yusei, and he seems very open to some things. But right now, we want to see what he can do and see how he pitches a little bit. We want Jano to get comfortable with him. But for the most part, it's really just we're trying to build up his workload right now and kind of get a better feel for his pitches. And we'll definitely, there's a couple of them we might utilize a little bit more, and maybe one or two we might utilize less.
Pete, take us through the process as we see this fly ball. This is going to be a foul ball off the bat of Springer. Take us through the process of educating yourself on a new pitcher once you realized that Kikuchi was going to come to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think there's always a process within the organization. We've obviously seen him pitch in the past in Seattle, so as a pitching coach on the other side, you get to watch these opposing pitchers and you get familiar with them. Obviously, after we knew we were in some talks and there was some interest there, and you dig in a little bit more, and certainly we have a good group of guys on our pitching end. Everybody was digging in and trying to see what he did really well and maybe why he ran into some trouble in the second half. And we have our ideas, and like I said, we have a great group on the pitching department, and I'm excited for having him here, and looking forward to watching him pitch in a Blue Jay uniform.
Pete, your starting rotation looks fairly set from our perspective. What do you like most about the diversity of the 5 guys?
Yeah, I think diversity is great. You don't want to have a cookie cutter staff where everybody does the same thing day in and day out. We have some variety. Obviously, right-handed, left-handed. We have some bigger breaking balls, and we got some guys with power. Obviously mixing 100 and Ryu in there as well. It's a nice staff. I think in a 3 or 4 game series, you're going to get a lot of different looks from the other side. So I think that's a benefit. That definitely benefits us, and I think our pitching staff hopefully they feed off each other as well, and can build some momentum.
Pete, obviously the Blue Jays are really getting up to speed in analytics and all of the technology that's available. How do you mix your innate baseball knowledge with the analytic information that you're given on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think that's something that's been a transition over the last several years, to be honest with you. So I don't think it's anything that was overnight. Certainly you have to be open to new things in this game. It's just a trend, and like we have a great group that's slowly implemented these ideas, and we sift through Charlie, myself, and the rest of the staff. We work together with the front office in a lot of ways from an analytical standpoint, and we try to put together the best. We try to put these guys in the best position to have success. I think that's the bottom line as a pitcher, as a position player. Blending things and making sure that we, ideally are putting them in the best position to have success. And I believe the players are buying in. Obviously, that's a big part of it. They understand that we're looking out for them. Obviously, it's about winning ball games and getting to the postseason. And I really do believe the players understand that now, and it makes it a lot easier on our end.
Pete, it's interesting you just said that about doing what's best for the individual. Kevin Gausman has figured out how to do that over the last couple of years, and he did it by really changing his repertoire a little bit. A lot of fastballs up in the zone, splitters down. Is that something that you see a pitcher evolve over the years, or is that an analytical thing for him as well?
I think with him, I'm sure there was some discussions he had with his organization over there, and especially in San Francisco. But I remember him in Baltimore, and he definitely got burned by that breaking ball a number of times. I know our hitters used to sit on it in certain counts, and for him right now, I love watching him, and I had fun watching him last year, to be honest with you. And he's a guy that is turning into an elite pitcher in this game with his fastball, the velocity behind it and the spin, and then also being able to throw that splitter anytime, and he can throw it for strikes and he can take it out of the zone. So he's exceptional, and he's a great addition to the staff, and obviously watching him work already, he's very professional, and he's a great fit.
Pete, I know in the past we've had this conversation. You really like guys that don't rely 100% on spin, guys that can throw changeups and splitters. And there's a beautiful hit and run right there. Deshaun Brown goes first to third on the Bishop base hit. But tell me about your philosophy about not relying an awful lot on spin, and how much you really like guys that throw changeups and splitters as a complementary pitch.
I think that's big. You know, I think over the, you know, I would say the last few years you've seen spin, you know, be utilized so much with guys, and you know, I think hitters have made some adjustments, and I think the guys that can change speeds, the guys that can control bat speed, and not just rely on trying to overpower somebody with a fastball that spins or a breaking ball that spins, that can actually change speeds and control the zone a little bit and control bat speed from the hitter, keep them off balance. I think that's critical nowadays, and I think the guys that can do that, you know, will definitely have a little more longevity.
Who's somebody in the major leagues that you think is a great example of that?
Marco Estrada, I mean, obviously jumps right out. You know, I got to spend a lot of time with him. You know, I saw Jay Happ learn how to implement that split change. And, you know, those are big pitches, especially as guys get older, too. I mean, it's not just, you know, for the younger pitchers, I think it's really important. But, you know, a veteran guy that's been around, incorporating that off-speed stuff, keeping hitters off balance. They just learn by being in the major leagues, and they learn how important it is. You know, but I think some of the young guys that are strictly power pitchers, you know, I just think in order for them to stick around a long time, they're going to be able to change speeds and keep the hitters off balance.
Pete, with this shortened spring training, you've got extra work here to try to get these pitchers all ready. What's your biggest concern in the month of April, not just for your starters, but even for your relievers and the pitching staff?
Yeah, I'm still hoping for a couple extra spots in that roster.
For sure.
To be honest with you, I mean, I think that'd be beneficial. You know, I'm hopeful. But you know, I think our guys did a great job. I've said it before. You know, we had a great plan going into the off season, even knowing there could be a lockout. So these pitchers were preparing for that, and you know, Matt Bushman did a great job, and the rest of the guys, you know, making sure our pitchers were, you know, had a plan in place to execute throughout the offseason. So when spring training did resume, we expected it could be short, that these guys would be ready to go, and I got to tell you, these guys did a great job, and I feel like we're going to be ready opening day. You know, it might not be 100+ pitches, but I think our starters will be ready.
Vladdy Guerrero just delivers his third hit of the afternoon.
Yeah, these guys can hit a little bit.
They can hit a little bit. That makes your job easier as a pitching coach, right?
It really does. I mean, honestly, you think about that, and that makes a huge difference to a pitcher. You add, you know, improved defense. You know, with Chapman, you saw the play he made earlier today. And then obviously the offense scoring runs. It takes some pressure off the pitchers, and they can attack a little bit more, trust their stuff, and, you know, you find them in better situations.
Pete, later on today, we're going to see Trevor Richards pitch in this game, and he's going to use a communication device. And catchers will have it on the wristband, and then they will send a message to the pitcher.
Yeah.
You have used that before. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's new to me, to be honest with you. I mean, Major League Baseball has sent them out to all the teams this spring, and some teams are utilizing them. We've talked to the Tigers yesterday, and they weren't too interested in it. Their guys didn't like it, but we're giving it a shot. Obviously, anything that benefits the pitcher and catcher and makes things go a little faster, and you know, maybe keeps the opposing team from picking up signs, I'm open to it. But it's not going to be easy. I think, you know, one thing we found today in a live BP, it kind of affects the rhythm of the pitcher a little bit. But again, if it's something that's going to be utilized, or, you know, Major League Baseball okays it, we'll find a way to use it and implement it. And, you know, again, it's different. You know, I can't say I'm a fan or I'm not a fan. I think anything that speeds up the game and you know, limits the opposition stealing signs and stuff like that, I'm very open to. So I'm hopeful our pitchers give it an honest shot, and you know, I guess we'll just see where it goes.
Pete, on that topic, with the technology in the game today in 2022 compared to maybe even just 5 years ago, how challenging is it for you, in terms of all the video out there, for your own pitchers to watch that they're not tipping pitches, or they're not doing something that might be tipping somebody off?
That's been a huge pet peeve of mine over the years, and you know, obviously as an organization we've gotten a lot better at it. We've spent a lot of time on it. I know other teams do as well, and you know, you just don't want to give the other team an advantage, and an unnecessary advantage. And you know, I think hitters are so good. You know, the runner at second base is so good at picking up things in the pitcher's glove, the timing of the pitchers, their tempos. So we as pitchers have to be better. Long foul ball. We as pitchers have to be good at protecting the baseball and making sure we're not giving stuff away. So with the technology, with the slow motion cameras, with a camera, it seems like at every angle in the ballpark, it just makes it difficult for a pitcher to hide stuff. So we just got to constantly stay on top of it, and we are spending a lot more time on that and making sure our pitchers aren't tipping.
Obviously, that's a big advantage if a hitter does have an idea what might be coming. This has popped up on the infield as Gleyber Torres. Now Rizzo gives way. Rizzo, the first baseman, makes the catch. That's the second out. Pete, as a former catcher, now I know that you can have the catcher give pitch, location. What about a button to say, hey, what the heck are you doing out here?
I might want to have that. I think that'd be good for the pitching coach to have. It's interesting because I know in spring training, actually, we have I could wear it in my hat as well, but I guess during the season you can't, so I've decided not to wear it today. That might be tough knowing a pitch is coming, and in my heart and soul I wish it weren't coming. So
yeah, you can call timeout.
Yeah.
No, I'd rather not throw that one right now. Thank you.
No. So it is interesting, but I think it's all great. Like I said, I know as fans we want the game to go a little faster. The players, and I'm sure they won't disagree. So we want to speed up the game just enough. But if this helps, this technology helps, and why not?
Well, Pete, we certainly appreciate all your insight. It's been a great camp so far. We wish you good luck with your pitchers' health all spring, and thanks again for spending some time with us.
Yeah, great talking to you guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks.
That's Pete Walker, the pitching coach, with a lot of insight, giving us thoughts on Kikuchi and how you ramp up to get to know a new pitcher. And we're going to see Trevor Richards utilize the new technology to get signs and location from his catcher today. So he'll pitch a little bit later. And it'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Kevin Biggio fouls it out of play. The Blue Jays, they have put on their hitting shoes today. 5 runs on 11 hits. As the Yankees pitchers have been roughed up a bit. Vladdy Guerrero 3 for 3, a couple of RBIs. He scored a run. Bo Bichette 2 for 3. George Springer, he was 2 for 3 as well. He scored a run, reached on an error. He was on base 3 times today. So good day for the top of the order. Biggio takes one upstairs. It's 3-1 now on the second baseman. Well, Pete Walker, and I've said this many times, I think he does a great job of finishing off pitching prospects. Look what he did for Robbie Ray, Steven Matz last year, for Jose Barrios and Alek Manoah. And he made some subtle adjustments to all 4 of those starting pitchers, and the results were pretty dramatic.
And I find it very interesting. This is going to be quite the project with Yusei Kikuchi now. And the reason I asked him about the pitches that he throws, and I think the subtle hint there I got from Pete is they will be looking at his pitch usage and perhaps maybe throwing the fastball a little bit more, maybe the cutter a little less, or whatever the case may be. He tends to like that breaking ball. Well, maybe the breaking ball he likes in between the cutter and the slider, more of a curveball. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that, because they're trying to find out what will be best for him. And the most important thing he said right there is they've got to just let him pitch right now. You can't just come to a new team and throw a million things at someone. Let him pitch, get his feet wet, and he even said he was a little nervous in the first inning. He's a human being.
Isn't that interesting? After pitching 3 years in the big leagues, he was nervous in his first outing as a Blue Jay. Nate Pearson, some more good news for the Blue Jays. Nate Pearson had a good outing yesterday, had 4 strikeouts in his outing against the Tigers. Threw a lot of strikes. Randall checks his swing and flares it down the right side. Randall Grichuk, he's 0 for 2 so far this afternoon. But yeah, Nate Pearson is a big part of this Blue Jays team going forward, and he's done just about everything you would want in the minor leagues. Now it's a matter of learning how to pitch in the big leagues, and I think you do that under the guidance of Pete Walker.
And I think he could play a similar role perhaps in the bullpen, because the rotation is so set as long as everyone stays healthy. But same as Ross Stripling, they could be that kind of swing guy, give you more than 3 outs, perhaps go 2 innings for you out of the bullpen if you need a little length, and spot start when needed.
There's a high fly ball to right field. Lemire is back, looking up. This ball is gone. Randall Grichuk with a grand slam home run to right field. This is the type of offense we saw all season a year ago, breaking it out again this spring.
Well, this is Randall Grichuk in a nutshell. He has power. He can hit the home runs. He's gone back and forth in terms of approaches and trying to be a little bit more of a complete hitter. We saw him do that at times last year, but then he slid back to who he is. But he can run into one with the best of them. And that just pads the Blue Jays lead.
Grand slam home run for Randall Grichuk. 5 runs in this inning. It's 9-1 Blue Jays. Danny Jansen takes breaking ball for a strike.
You see where Grichuk in a good position here. That's just running into the baseball, especially on the spring training ballparks. We saw the Blue Jays spend some time in Dunedin here last year. We know that the ball flies, but that's just a good approach to a pitch up in the zone.
The Blue Jays played 21 games here at TD Ballpark in Dunedin last year during the regular season. They had a 10-11 record. Then they went 12-11 at Salem Field in Buffalo. But boy, oh boy, they really showed you how much they appreciate playing at Rogers Center. As once they got home to Rogers Center, their record improved to 25-11 at home. So hopefully they'll be there all season and put up those similar type of numbers playing in front of the fans at Rogers Center. It should be a great season of Blue Jays baseball at Rogers Center.
And that swing right there is another reason why you will see a pitcher spin the baseball a little bit more to Randall Grichuk.
Danny Jansen had an RBI double his last time up. He's 1 for 2. We'll have a chance to catch up with George Springer coming out of this next commercial break. So stay tuned with us and hear from the Blue Jays center fielder. Inside for a ball. It's 2-2. Jano fouls it straight back on a high fastball. Blue Jays have 9 runs on 12 hits. The Yankees just 1 run on 2 hits. Yankees have committed the only error in this game. That's by the young shortstop Oswald Peraza. There's nothing like talking home runs with your hitting coach, huh?
Why is it that the guy that hits the home run's always on the top step smiling? See what I just did?
Popped it up. Wind blowing this around. Gleyber Torres, the second baseman, gets there and makes the catch. Jansen's retired. But Randall Grichuk, the first grand slam of the spring for the Blue Jays. He goes opposite field. 9-1. Look out, George. Congratulations on another good day. Your first day. How did it feel out there for you?
It's awesome. I mean, it's good to be back. It's good to play a game. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful day out here. So it's a good day for the Bluebirds so far. I'll take it.
George, your first game of the spring. A lot has been going on over at the Player Development Complex. What is your impression of that place? Because we've talked about it a lot over the first week here on the broadcasts.
I mean, it's next level. You know, I think everything and anything that a player needs for recovery, for you know, a hitting lab, a pitching lab, all that stuff, you know, to really hone in on what you need to do individually and as a team to get ready. And it's a huge thing for us.
George, we have been there quite a bit this spring. It is like a baseball factory. There's so many different things going on at one time, and it doesn't seem like anybody's rushed, but everybody's accomplishing an awful lot in a very short period of time.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously with a shorter spring than all of us are, you know, accustomed to having, you know, there's bodies going everywhere, but it's efficient. You know, guys can get done what they need to get done. There's, you know, plenty of live ABs available. There's arms. There's the hitting lab for, you know, for guys like to hit off the machine. So it's again a huge asset for us, and you know, it makes getting ready a little bit easier.
George, you've been through the game for several years now, and especially with the advent of so much in the way of analytics. And you mentioned hitting lab. What information can you take from places like that to actually take out onto the field during batting practice and into the game in terms of your swing?
I mean, I just think it's a tool to really understand your mechanics. You know, obviously it's a controlled environment. It's a machine. You know, there's no high pressure. It's just going out there, you know, understanding, you know, how you're swinging that day, you know, what your mechanics are, you know, what your hands are doing, what your body's doing, and all that. So it's, you know, it's good to do it, you know, but not try to overanalyze it as well.
When I watch you hit, George, you look to me like a fastball hitter, a pull hitter. It seems to be where you do the most damage. Is that an approach, or is that where the ball ends up going?
I mean, I try not to overcomplicate things. You know, this is already a hard enough game, and you know, I really just try to hit the ball where it's pitched. I know that doesn't necessarily happen all the time, but you know, we're really slowing my body down and making sure that I stay inside the ball. You know, and after that, I mean, you know, however the thing goes, it goes. I can't control it, but you know, for me, I kind of understand who I am. You know, I do tend to hit balls hard, you know, to the pull side, but I'm trying to be more complete, you know, and really use the whole field and kind of concentrate on slowing my body down, you know, slowing my mind down too.
George, how does it help you as an individual hitter in this lineup to have so many other good hitters in the lineup around you?
Well, it's huge. You know, I think for myself, you know, I understand that I don't need to do too much. It's my job to get to first base, you know, to let Bo and Vladdy and Chappie and pretty much everybody else just do what they know how to do, and it really makes my job easier, you know, hitting first. Just to really understand that I don't need to do too much. I don't need to try to hit a 5-run homer, and I can just hit a single, you know, hit a ball hard, you know, have a good quality at bat, and just kind of let these guys do what they do. I mean, these are all really good hitters. I get that they're young, but that don't really matter to me.
You have a chance to play against Matt Chapman a lot when you were both in the American League West. Give us your impression of Matt Chapman now as your teammate.
I'm so much happier that he's on our side of the ball. I mean, he's obviously won 3 Platinum Gloves for a reason. I've been on the wrong end of you know, his plays plenty of times, and I mean, he's a vacuum, and you know, he knows what he's doing, you know, knows how to position himself. You know, it looks like he doesn't have any fear. You know, he just is, you know, pretty willing to stick his chest out there, you know, stay in there. So it's awesome to have him on our team. I mean, I've played against him for 4 or 5 years, and you just assume that when you hit the ball to him that you're out.
Wow, he has been a terrific addition to this club, and you have as well. And this ball is up, and we're going to see it.
Yeah.
George Springer, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to talking to you a lot.
For sure. Absolutely, guys.
Thanks again.
Yep.
His third plate appearance of the afternoon. 9-1 Blue Jays. They've out-hit the Yankees 12-2. Randall Grichuk has the only home run. It's a grand slam. Reese goes after the first pitch, hits it on the ground to the second baseman, and he's retired on 1 pitch. That's 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th. Desan Brown took over as a pinch runner for George Springer, and he is into the ball game now, playing in center field. Son Brown, of course, from Oakville, Ontario, getting a chance to play here in the spring for the Blue Jays. 3rd-round pick out of Abbey Park High School in Oakville. Made his debut in 2019 in the Gulf Coast League. Did not play in 2020 because of the minor leagues being suspended. And last year he played right here in Dunedin. Got into 51 games and hit .212. He had 8 doubles, a triple, and 4 home runs. He's got some speed. He had 22 stolen bases playing here in the Florida State League. Pops this one up a mile high out into shallow center. Gleyber Torres, the second baseman, makes the catch, and Brown's retired. Good opportunity for the Blue Jays, and this is another aspect of that player development center where the minor leaguers are right there with the big leaguers, and when the coaches are making out their major league roster for a day, Charlie Montoyo can say, hey, give me a couple of these kids. Let's bring them up. Let them get exposed to the big league atmosphere. And Charlie's done a great job of that. And he understands the value of having the big leaguers mix in with the minor leaguers on a daily basis.
So important when you're a minor leaguer to come over to the big league complex for the day, even if it's just for the big league game. You take a little batting practice with them, join them, even if you don't get into the game, even though I'm sure he tries to get everybody in. But that's just assimilating everybody into the organization. And the other benefit is George was able to have a couple of at-bats yesterday over at the minor league complex. So you always have that flexibility. And Hensley Mullins, the assistant hitting coach for the Yankees I was speaking with this morning, he mentioned that as well, that with this shortened spring training, a couple guys are staying back in Tampa today and hitting live pitching. If they want more than that, they can go get an at-bat or two in the minor league game.
Eric Stamets is called out on strikes. He takes a fastball on the inside corner, so the Blue Jays retired in order here in the 5th. They'll go to the 6th, 9-1 Jays.
They brought both Adam Simber and Trevor Richards to this organization. They needed help in the bullpen early in the season, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of help to be had early on. Teams aren't making trades, but they were finally able to acquire Simber and Richards to solidify things down there. He'll use that four-seamer up in the zone, an excellent changeup down in the zone. He'll get a lot of fly balls. Some of them will leave the ballpark, but he has got a very good idea of what he is doing on the mound.
Trevor's now 28 years old. He'll turn 29 on the 15th of May. Interesting background as he gets the first pitch. It's popped up as the outfielder makes a nice play. The right fielder comes in to make that play. And that is Josh Palacios out there in right field. Danny Jansen catching catching Trevor Richards. And we had talked about a button, and indeed they're using the communication button. Danny's got it on the inside of his left wrist. It's black. It's a little pad that has keypad on it. He will send the message to location and the pitch, and Richards is wearing a speaker inside his hat, and he will hear a verbal delivery fastball inside. And they used it in BP today. Thomas Hatch used it in live BP today over at the complex. So Danny Jansen, instead of flashing a sign, will go to that wrist pad and punch in slider down and away. Interesting.
Technological advancements.
I don't know if I could catch like that. I don't know how to work a computer.
I was over at the complex yesterday, Buck, and I was speaking with Reese McGuire in the morning, and we had a long conversation about catching, receiving, all that. He said, wait till you see what we're doing today. And Adam Simber was throwing a live BP session yesterday. So sure enough, he tells me it's going to be with this wristband. It's got the buttons 1 through 9 on them. Also got a volume up, volume down, and a cancel button. So you can, as a catcher, press 1 for fastball, and then you can push something else that says away or up or down for location. So then this speaker that's in their hats. Now, I was standing behind home plate during the live session. Trevor Richards was there along with Tim Meza. It's probably 4 to 6 inches long and about 1 inch thick, a long rectangle, and it sits in the brim of their hat. It's got a little piece that comes off, and it's literally a computerized voice. After the catcher pushes it in, it's a computerized voice, almost like a Hey Siri. It's fastball, down, away, and gives you that information. So it's a fascinating thing. There are certainly going to be some pluses and minuses. We saw Mike Matheny, the Royals manager, make some comments about it. There are consequences to everything. If you don't want that pitch, you'd have to shake and maybe go manually, because you're probably not going to punch another code in. So this will be interesting right here. Runner on second base. This is probably the key purpose for this communication tool, because as Pete Walker was noting, teams are paranoid. The teams are trying to pick up signs.
Yeah, and they're working, I mean, night and day trying to diffuse signs. And take a look at Jansen, and he's not going to give a sign. He's already delivered the pitch technologically to Trevor Richards. And I'm with you, too. How do you shake off a sign? So now Danny's punching in a pitch, and Trevor's listening right now. Okay, I got it, Siri. I'm good. Steps on the rubber. He's nodding. Of course he nods. He's already heard what he's throwing. I like it. I think it's great. You know, why not try innovation to see if it works? And Pete Walker told us about it during his interview. He said, hey, there are some things to iron out. That's for sure.
You can see Danny laughing right there with the hitter. I'm sure they know that they're using it, because it's slowly making its way around baseball. The Rays used it in the game the other day.
Well, you know the Rays would use it.
First ones. There he goes now. He's punching. Let's see what Richards does right now. He could be off the mound. See, he just nodded. Yes, there it is. So they know they're good to go already. So Richards heard that in his ear before he even stepped on the pitching rubber.
That's very cool. 1-1. And it seems to be quicker because Danny's not concerned about concealing the signs from the base runner at second.
And I really believe that is the main purpose of this, because with a runner on second base, there's another nod. With the runner on second base, that's when you have to really disguise your signs. And then if your pitcher shakes off, you got to go through another set of signs. That's what takes the time.
Now, this is interesting.
They're in agreement. They both nodded.
But it makes you think now, does the catcher have the final say all the time, or are they going to be able to agree? I mean, there's got to be a way for pitchers to say, no, I don't want that pitch. I want the next one.
The challenge, I think, could be, let's say Danny wants to go fastball away. So then he shakes his head, but now Danny goes to another pitch when really all he wants is a different location. So that could cause a bit of an issue.
Well, here's something that you can do. We used to use it all the time, where the pitcher would use his glove to swipe on his chest or swipe on his leg. When you swipe on your chest, that would go up a number. Swipe down, that would go down a number. So you could get to the next pitch very quickly. Interesting. 2-2 pitch to Gleyber Torres. Fouls this one off.
And I think, too, when I used to put signs down, Buck, and a catcher stared at me, just kept looking, it meant that that's the pitch they wanted, but different location. So I like the fastball, but I don't want it away. I want it in. If they shook their head, that means they didn't want the pitch. So there are the shakes. Okay, Danny, get on that keyboard, Danny.
Yeah. And he's only got 3 pitches, fastball, slider, changeup. So he can get there quickly. And there's a base hit. That's going to score a run. Eric Wagaman, the pinch runner for Rizzo, comes around to score as Torres is out at second base. Just assuming there wasn't going to be a throw to second base, and he is out on a nice throw from the left fielder.
It will be very interesting to hear the feedback, and I am sure from pitchers, Trevor Richards is probably going to say it seems so weird because it's not your regular routine. Normally you stand on the pitching rubber, you're looking at the catcher, you get your sign sequence, you nod, and then you come set. But this is actually almost happening quicker, and I hate to say too fast because we all want things sped up a little bit, but it'll be an adjustment.
Will Robertson, the left fielder, made a nice throw to get Torres at second. That one's cued off the end of the bat. Espino, boy, he made an easy play of it. Sebastian Espino took over for Matt Chapman after Chapman was spiked on a sliding attempt at third. 9-2 Jays. Ability and what you might have to do to change signs. So that's pretty interesting, and we're going to find out more about it. But Joe, I got to give you a lot of credit. You're the one that got the heads up on that yesterday over at the complex. That's pretty cool.
It was very interesting, and I almost laughed when Reese McGuire mentioned that to me at the complex. It was before his day started, before he even went to the bullpen, and he said, well, wait till you see what we have today. And of course my ears perked up, and he proceeded to tell me it's a wristband. Well, that's sure enough, I made sure I was over on that field to watch it. And Trevor Richards, not thinking in my head that he's pitching in the game today, that he's getting used to it, but he and Tim Mesa were there. And he had it next to his ear just to get used to how it was sounding. And you could hear the voice. And I think my biggest question is going to be, it'll be interesting about, I think, location, because there are pitchers, say like a Jose Barrios, he might throw a breaking ball down and away to a right-handed batter. But what happens when you want to front door it and you want it inside on the right-handed batter? So that could be a challenge, as there could be many other challenges as well. But they could certainly be onto something here, especially in the way of picking up the pace of the game, but more importantly, disguising signs, because we know that this is happening all throughout baseball now, and it's perfectly legal to try to steal signs when you're standing on second base, peeking into the catcher.
Yeah, and it has been a big concern, and there's so much video and so many analysts now for every team. They sit and watch video for hours just trying to pick up anything that might be different. And you know, they have the technology to layer delivery over delivery over delivery from the same pitcher, and if there's a subtle change on a curveball or a subtle change on a changeup, and if they see it consistently enough, then they can pass that on to the hitters. First, they'll pass it on to the hitting coach and make sure they don't give it to somebody that's going to be overwhelmed with information.
Well, it'll be interesting also to see, just like with any rule changes or any adaptations to technology like that and trying to incorporate into the game, the bugs that are going to have to be worked out, because we know that you could have some communication issues. Now, the simple backup, of course, is you put signs down, just like you did manually before. So that's an easy solution to that. I think when we start talking again about the automatic strike zone, that I think we would all agree is going to be coming to Major League Baseball at some point. It could be real soon. The one thing that you still have to iron out with that is, I think with the automated zone, you can still get pitches that look really bad, a breaking ball that might bounce in the ground, but it's actually a strike. That's not a good look. So they're probably going to have to buffer that a little bit just to make it so that whether it's the front of the plate it has to catch or part of it, whatever it is, somehow come up with that technology where that just wouldn't be good for the game when you start seeing bounced pitches called strikes.
I saw the automated strike zone utilized right here in Dunedin last year in the low A League. And the umpire waited for a beep, then he would throw up his right hand. There was a little bit too much of a delay. And you kind of sensed exactly the timing of it, and it just kind of took away from it a little bit. You know, I'm open for anything that's going to improve the game, and some of the things we've seen implemented have improved the game, but at the same time, I think baseball is all about the human element at a point too, and that's the beauty of having umpires. This is Will Robertson, who made that nice throw in left field to nail Gleyber Torres at second base. He swings and misses and strikes out. That's 2 down here in the bottom of the 6th.
Well, Major League Baseball, I think the players are agreeing too that things need to be done with the game to continue to pique the interest for the audience, for the viewer, whether you're at the ball game or you're watching remotely, whether it's on TV or on the app, whatever the case may be. And that's why I think the pitch clock is center stage, and we will see that next year. I do believe that's the one element that can pick up the pace of the game. There are so many things that they've tried. I don't think limiting the number of pitchers or mandating 3 pitchers or mound visits or anything like that necessarily is the big way. If there was one, I would have to say the pitch clock, because now you're trimming time between every pitch of a game that consists of 300+ pitches. I think that's the way you can pick up the pace and also maybe shave off 12 to 15 minutes to a game.
Yeah, man, and I think so much is not necessarily the length of the game, it's just the pace of the game, as you mentioned. And you know, there's not a whole lot of action, a lot of strikeouts in the game, and I think that would probably solve the issue more dramatically than anything you can introduce to the game. Just a little more contact. 0-2 to Sebastian Espino. He gets a base hit, lines it into left field on an 0-2 pitch. Espino took over defensively at third base when Matt Chapman was taken out of the game as he was injured in a spike wound in a sliding situation at third base. Ender Inciarte was caught stealing. Espino came in. This is his second plate appearance. He popped out his first time back in the 4th, and now he's got a hit.
You used the word action, Buck, and I think when you're talking about banning the shift that we're going to see also 2 infielders on each side, that should create more action as well. More balls in play that will go through, more base hits, more base runners, and I think also the other consequence of that is maybe more defensive plays and good defensive plays, because players aren't positioned in the perfect spot anymore. I was always a believer that I think you should be able to play defense where you want, but I think watching the game over the last couple of years, I'd like to see the pace pitch clock, the pace pickup, and I'd also like to see the shift band so that we can see a little bit more action, because that is what most people agree the game is lacking.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, I was never one for restricting how a team plays defensively, but the hitters aren't adjusting like I thought they might.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And everybody will say, why don't they just go the other way? Well, I think my first answer to that is, first of all, it's not that easy. However, and I say however, watching as much baseball as we have, we know that a lot of hitters aren't trying.
Yeah.
And if you see more at least try, like if I'm a left-handed hitter and he's throwing 94, 96 mile an hour cutters in on my hands, that's pretty tough to try to go the other way. But as we know, that's not the case all the time. There are pitches out over the plate. We've seen guys like Teoscar Hernandez do it and do it very well. But that's because the effort is there. And a lot of hitters have not made that effort. So it's as though they're changing a rule because we're not seeing the effort from the players. And that's too bad.
Lowering the bar a little bit. And you know what? I think George Springer got a base hit through the right side of the infield today. Vladdy Guerrero got 2 hits right straight away to center field. I think there are hitters now that understand that you use the whole field, just spread out the defense. Swing and a miss. Luis De Los Santos strikes out. That ends the inning. We've played 6 complete. Lots of things going on here today at Dunedin, and the Blue Jays have a 9-2 lead over the Blue Jays, who pitched very well this spring. Trent Thornton a year ago got into 37 games, primarily working out of the bullpen, and he was a year further removed from that elbow surgery where he had bone chips taken out of his elbow. And he says he feels great this year, first time in a couple of years that he's felt really 100%.
Pitched for parts of the last few seasons with the Blue Jays, and I think right now he would be competing for a bullpen spot, but at the same time I also think that they'd like to stretch him out maybe as a starter, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Thornton, whether he's in the AAA rotation in Buffalo or a piece of the bullpen. I think in the bullpen he's turned out to me to be more of like that one-time through the lineup guy. That seems to be trouble for him when he starts seeing hitters a second time.
Chris Beck is the new pitcher. He takes over behind the plate for Danny Jansen, as Beck has gotten into a game before, and this will be his second game this spring. One of the multiple catches the Blue Jays have brought into camp. Miguel Andujar has gone the whole distance. This is his 3rd at bat. He picked up an RBI on a ground ball out back in the 4th. Yankees have 2 runs on 4 hits. The Blue Jays have 9 runs on 13 hits. The Blue Jays have scored 9 runs and have hit 1 home run, albeit a grand slam home run off the bat of Randall Grichuk back in the 4th. Yusei Kikuchi started and had a very good first outing as a member of the Blue Jays. He went 2 innings. No runs on no hits, a walk and 4 strikeouts. He struck out the final 4 batters he faced in his outing. Lined up the middle. Nice play by De Los Santos, who was positioned up the middle. The second baseman made a nice play on that hard hit ball off the bat of Andujar.
Watch what this ball does. It knuckles. It should be slicing to the right toward right center field, but it actually comes back a little bit, and that's what happens when a ball is squared up. It can knuckle, and as an infielder, that's a hot shot to handle. Good reaction right there.
Now, De Los Santos is a shortstop. I've seen him play in the minor leagues games, and he's got some good hands. Blue Jays got a lot of good young talent. Spencer Horwitz flips to Trent Thornton as Florio grounds out. Quick 2 outs here in the 7th.
I find Trent is so well served when he sticks to his fastball curveball combination. He's always been able to spin the baseball very well. I would love to see him continue to pound the fastball at the top of the zone, curveball down in the zone. I feel like he gets in trouble when he tinkers with that little slider and cutter, and then he'll mix in a changeup. Perhaps if he simplified things to be more effective.
You know, Trent had that elbow surgery, had bone chips removed from his elbow, and you know, you think bone chips, okay, that can't be that big a deal. They just go in and pluck out the bone chips orthoscopically, and it's no big deal. He showed me a picture of the bone chips. They look like teeth molars. They were huge. Big chips in his elbow, and he just couldn't extend his elbow. And even last year, as he was overcoming that surgery, he said, I couldn't get full extension, especially on his curveball. But this year, it's a different story. He feels very good about his arm and how he's pitching. And Deshaun Brown makes a nice catch, a sinking liner in center field, and Trent Thornton with the A to some good D out in center. Deshaun Brown from Oakville, Ontario, makes a terrific diving catch in center. 3 up, 3 down. The Yankees go in order.
Makes sense that you come in 4th place. So I think if you're Charlie Montoya and the Blue Jays, you keep doing what you're doing. And Charlie said countless times they were in so many games and lost a lot of very close games. And I also think that big plus number has got to do with a good offensive club that beats up teams oftentimes. And unfortunately, you don't make the playoffs because of your plus minus, but those numbers to me show that the records should change a little bit this year.
Josh Palacios fouls it off the catcher. David Freitas took over for the starter Rob Brantley, and now he got smoked on that foul ball. Well, to give you an idea, the Blue Jays last year, speaking to that run differential, they were 31-15 in games in which they scored 5 or more runs. So they would blow out teams. The flip side of that, of course, is they were 15-15 in one-run games. The Yankees, on the other hand, they had 89 games decided by 2 runs or less. So they didn't have the offense that we're used to from the Bronx Bombers, but they had a very good bullpen. So the Yankees, they just did a terrific job, and they had the 3rd most games 2 runs or less in the majors, behind the Mets, who had 92 such games. The Braves had 90, and then the Yankees had 89. Palacios gets a piece of that breaking ball.
And there were so many times last year too that it was a little mystifying for Aaron Boone's club to see them not hitting better. But that lineup this year certainly looks like it should do plenty of damage, especially after signing an Anthony Rizzo, and you add that bat to the lineup. But when you look at Judge and Gallo and Stanton, they acquired Josh Donaldson now. Aaron Hicks is back. See what he can do coming back from injury. This AL East is full of very, very strong lineups, and the Blue Jays put them right at the top of that list. Boone even said today, you just look over there and the depth of the lineup is just scary. But
Josh Palacios is called out on strikes, and this lineup with the starters doing most of the damage early in this game, and that was all without Teoscar Hernandez. So Teoscar not even in the lineup today, and the Blue Jays still scored 9 runs.
think of the Red Sox adding Trevor Story. Now that's another good looking lineup in the AL East. You've got Devers, you've got JD Martinez.
Chris Beck, the catcher, pops one into center field. That's the second baseman, Max Burt, who makes the catch out into the outfield.
And that's why pitching can be critical, and the Blue Jays have certainly shored up the rotation. That could be huge. The Yankees certainly pitched well. Boston not so much last year, and that's what hurt them. But Tampa's going to be Tampa. They're going to pitch, they're going to play defense, but what they did is they hit. We weren't, I don't think anybody's expecting Tampa to come across and be one of the better offenses in the league, and that's what they were.
Well, they've got Shane McClanahan top of the rotation, a hard-throwing young left-hander. Drew Rasmussen's going to be stretched out as a starter this year.
Corey Kluber.
Corey Kluber. No telling what you'll get from Corey Kluber, and if he is healthy, of course, we all know how good he can be. Threw a no-hitter last year for the Yankees. This is Reese McGuire, who is getting a good opportunity here. 4 plate appearances for McGuire, serving as the DH this afternoon. He has lined out, flied out, and grounded out. 0 for 3 so far. Lays off that breaking ball. And Marty Foster, the veteran umpire down at third, said no swing. There's another breaking ball. This time it's a called strike and another good inning by the Yankee pitcher. 3 up, 3 down. We'll go to the 8th. Blue Jays offense on display here. $15 million. Philadelphia better win so they can pay the bills.
Well, they're going to have to pitch better. That is for certain. They did sign Corey Knebel to shore up that bullpen a little bit. It's always been an issue for the Phillies, is that bullpen, so that should help out Joe Girardi and company. Jeurys Familia also.
There's Casey Lawrence. What an interesting career Casey Lawrence has had. He's now 34 years old. He signed out of Albright College in Pennsylvania. And he has been a journeyman. He started the season last year in independent ball, pitching for the York Revolution. And the Blue Jays signed him, started out in AA, ended up in AAA once again. There's a fly ball to right field. Palacios giving chase over near the foul line. It'll be out of play over the netting down there in the right field line. Palacios trying to win a spot on this roster as an extra outfielder. Of course, the Blue Jays have 4 basically everyday outfielders with Gurriel, Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, and Randall Grichuk. The outfield is pretty loaded.
It certainly is. And of course, the rumors swirl again. Is Randall Grichuk last spring, same thing when George Springer was acquired. Was he going to be the odd man out? Not only did he stay, but he ended up playing a fair bit with George on the injured list.
Casey Lawrence gets ahead 1-2 to Ryan Lemire, the right fielder.
Who knows if the Blue Jays are done yet? Good chance they are not. It still is only March 22nd if they want to shore up whether it's an outfield spot or a left-handed bat. And I'm sure other teams in the same boat. Not done yet.
Isn't that interesting? Here we are, middle of spring, and just a couple weeks before spring training, before regular season, and teams are still trying to improve their teams. Foul ball. That hit the batter. It fouled off the ground. We mentioned Casey Lawrence, what an interesting career he has had. He signed originally as an undrafted player out of college. He was in the alternate site for the Minnesota Twins in 2020. He pitched for Japan. He pitched in Hiroshima for the Hiroshima Carp in 2019. And then, of course, we mentioned he started last season in independent ball. It's kind of interesting, too, because you never know where players are going to come from. Trevor Richards, who pitched in this game today, he, too, was an unsigned college player out of Drury College in St. Springfield, Missouri. And he was almost giving up on his baseball career. Decided to pitch indie ball. And here he is pitching in the big leagues again. Let's check in with Hazel.
Buck and Joe, I'm told that Matt Chapman left the ball game with a laceration to his left forearm. Blue Jays PR saying that there were no stitches required. So a little bit of good news there on the Matt Chapman front, guys.
Yeah, you can see he doesn't seem to be too concerned. And when you play third base or the middle infield, you are going to get spiked once in a while. It happens with catchers, too. Well, it used to happen when you could have contact at home plate. Not anymore. David Freitas, the catcher, with a big swing and a miss. But Chapman, I'm sure he's going to be fine. It was a little bit bloody, and Bo looked like he was more excited than anybody. So somebody get out here and take care of this guy.
He's our new guy. Well, the throw took him into the runner just a bit. And as a third baseman, you've got to run from your position to the bag. You get set up. If the throw is on the bag, you can catch it and apply the tag the way you want with your glove. But he did not really have a choice, Chapman did, because the throw was into the runner a bit. So he had to just catch the ball. And he was right there where the slide was coming in. And as I said, if you're lucky, you might catch the shin or the top of the shoe of the runner. But he got the spike.
David Freitas behind in the count 1-2. Brantley started, and Brantley went 0 for 2. First plate appearance for Freitas. Upstairs, 2-2 now. Well, things are certainly looking good for the Blue Jays so far. They did suffer an injury in yesterday's game. Jose De Leon threw a couple of pitches in his outing in Lakeland against the Tigers and had to leave the game with an apparent shoulder injury. We have not been given an updated report on De Leon, but he had a chance to make this team, and now that's probably going to diminish his chances.
Non-roster invitee to spring training, and those guys are always looking to impress.
There's a little ground ball against the shift, and Freitas will get a base hit. He hung in there, fouled off a couple tough pitches, and now just dribbles one through the right side of the infield. You know, when you think about it, like I say, spring training is going to come to an abrupt end here soon. I know the Blue Jays are going to leave Dunedin on the 5th of April after they play a game and go up to Rogers Center, work out, have an off day on the 7th before they open up the regular season. So I don't know about you. We have seen as much action as possible down here, but it looks like the Blue Jays are as advertised. Good offensive team. The pitching has been good, and it appears as though they got plenty of depth in the bullpen.
Yeah, well, the lineup, I think, is the talk of Major League Baseball. And as I said, talking to Aaron Boone today, he just kind of rolled his eyes like, wow, about the depth of it. The biggest thing and biggest concern always for a manager, and I'm sure it is for Charlie Montoya, is to get out of Florida healthy and try not to get those little tweaks, the hamstrings, the obliques, the different things you hear about throughout the course of spring trainings, and getting your starters work, getting your rotation just like Kikuchi today, going 2 innings, getting their work, getting built up so that they can give you a pretty good effort, whether you're pushing 100 pitches in their first start of the season. And the reason is early in April there, when the season starts, any kind of hiccups where guys don't go very long, you are going to be calling upon your bullpen. We saw what happened to the Blue Jays last year. The bullpen, excellent in April. They really helped out, but that being overworked got them in trouble after. And that's going to be a very cautious thing. And as Pete said, maybe they do add a couple of roster spots that will help everybody.
Yeah, and you know, when you try to figure out who's going to have a standout season, it's really challenging with this team because there's so many candidates to be great offensive players. You know, is Gurriel going to be able to carry the momentum he had in the second half into the start of this season? Will Bo Bichette take his game to another level and hit over 300? He got 298 last year and just did about everything you expect. But I think he expects more from himself than we saw last year. There's another little looper. That's going to drop for a base hit off the bat of Eric Wagman. But, you know, Vladdy, I mean, you can never go wrong saying Vladdy's going to be the standout player again because he has been so impressive and consistent offensively throughout his minor league career.
Well, that consistency just shows I think Vladdy is Vladdy, and he's going to be an MVP contender every year. It just feels that way because of what you see day in and day out throughout the course of a season. He is a superstar, and we've seen that from a young age. He had his hiccups there early on, too. Maybe he's grown up a little bit in the last couple of years, but last year it really came all together. And I think with him, too, when you talk about superstars, it's how they handle the failures. And he had some struggles last year, but I was not the least bit worried because I know it can happen. You can go through stretches, sometimes a couple of weeks, where you just don't get a whole lot of good pitches to hit. So what do you do when you're a great hitter? I don't know what that was like, Buck.
Got singles.
Do you? you start chasing hits, and you start saying, well, I've got to. You can't do that. That's where when we say pass the baton, you have to take your walks, and Vladdy is so good at that. So then he gets pitchers into the zone, and that's when he does his damage. So he gets through those ruts, and that's why he is one of the elite hitters in the game. I don't have any qualms about what he's going to do this season.
If I were going to pick a guy to have a real big season, looking back at last year, I'd say George Springer. I think George Springer is going to be healthy. I think he's going to play every day. I think he's going to relish the opportunity to contribute to this team. And I'll pick George Springer to really have a huge offensive season hitting the top of this order. And we heard from George earlier today and talk about how impressed he is with this lineup and the depth and the versatility. And like he said, I don't have to be the man. But when you're playing with that kind of attitude, you turn out to be the guy. And I think Springer's going to have a big year.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I'll go to Matt Chapman. Again, we've talked so much about his defense, rightfully so, this spring, and the acquisition and what he's done to the Blue Jays defense. I think he is primed and ready, if he is healthy like we're seeing, with that hip all fixed up, to get back to being who he is. And that's an excellent, excellent hitter with power. You saw what he did out in Oakland for a couple of years, and now to do that, playing half your games at the Rogers Center and in the AL East and in this lineup.
That ball gets away from Beck, and the runners are going to move up. Matt Chapman has the Oakland franchise record for home runs by a third baseman. I mean, that includes Sal Bando and Connie Lansford and Eric Chavez. So he hit 36 home runs a couple of years ago, and that's the record for home runs by a third baseman in Oakland franchise history.
I think he'll also drive in 100 here in this lineup because there'll be all kinds of guys on base. One thing he has yet to do in his career is drive in 100.
Well, we mentioned, too, he had 27 home runs last year. 23 of those were solo homers. So when he hits home runs, chances are there are going to be a whole bunch of Blue Jays on base because they can hit. From the pitching side of things, I'm going to pick Jose Barrios to have a standout season. Barrios came over and embraced the situation in Toronto. Pete Walker challenged him to use his breaking ball to both sides of the plate, and he adapted to that perfectly. And he signed a 7-year contract. So he's the type of guy that I think is going to want to return the favor to his ball club. You showed confidence in me. I'm going to give you everything I have, and I think Barrios is going to have a standout season.
He's so steady. You just know exactly what you're going to get from Jose Barrios, or at least you have now for 6 or 7 years. So why expect anything else? And when you look at that rotation, there are still some things that have to happen. Alek Manoah has to come back and do it again. And I have no doubts that he'll do that. But the flip side of that is now you've got a league that has seen him once. That's a little bit more advantage to the hitter. So he'll have to battle that part of it. And when you think of Kevin Gausman coming over from San Francisco, we saw lots with the Orioles, but really it's just these last couple of years where it's all come together. Now, can it continue to be together? By all means, it looks like it's going to. The stuff is there, no question. He'll be playing on a great team. And then Hyunjin Ryu, does he still have more in the tank? And you certainly hope he does. But at the back end of the rotation, that's a pretty nice option, along with who we saw today in Yusei Kikuchi.
Yeah, I like the different looks that you get in the rotation. The power breaking ball at Barrios, the ability to command both sides of the plate from Manoah. Gausman with the up fastball and the down split changeup. And Pete's going to try to improve the shape of his slider so it becomes an effective pitch once again. And then Ryu, I mean, we can see how masterful he has been in the past. And last year, he just couldn't command that inside strike to right-handed hitters, and that created some problems for him. I
think Manoah and Barrios are so similar to me. They both throw the sinking fastballs, but they do pitch up in the zone too, and they still have movement. And they've both got the real horizontal break to their breaking ball. So similar in that way. But then you've got a Gausman who pitches up in the zone with a fastball splitter down. That's very different. I think he's got to go in between those guys just to separate them. And then when you think of your lefties, you got the finesse lefty in Ryu, and then now more of a power lefty in Kikuchi. So I love that difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix for sure. And then you look at the bullpen. Of course, Jordan Romano is going to open up as the closer. Tim Mays did things last year I don't think anybody expected, coming off Tommy John surgery, and he was phenomenal. And he believes in himself now. He understands what it takes to be successful. And you've got Richards and Simber. They came over and did a great job. Yimi Garcia, he has had problems with visas, so he has just now joined the club, and he's going to be a welcome addition. Nice play by Horwitz. He'll flip to Casey Lawrence, and the Yankees will strand a pair. Casey Lawrence with a good inning, and we will go to the bottom of the 8th. Big day for the offense. And they are all over the place, and they are fun to watch. And they make a beautiful screeching sound, and you can hear them from a mile away. They're a beautiful bird. And they have some nice pickings here. It's just a short hop over to the Intercoastal and catch up dinner and then bring it right back here. Beautiful day here in Dunedin. The Blue Jays, as we mentioned, they'll be back on Sportsnet tomorrow as they take on the Philadelphia Phillies over in Clearwater. We'll be back with you, Joe and I, on Thursday. Back here from TD Ballpark. Atlanta will be here Thursday, and then the Detroit Tigers once again, and we'll have both of those games with you, so make sure you check in. And we'll be back once again on Sunday. The Phillies will be here in Dunedin. So lots of action all throughout spring training. We'll have all the games for you.
Is it? Oh, thank God for that. Oh, good.
This is Desan Brown, who made a nice catch. And when you look around baseball, lots of shifting around, of course. You look at the Dodgers lineup now with the signing of Freddie Freeman. I mean, how loaded are the Dodgers? The Dodgers have a terrific lineup, and they've got a rich history of winning, of course. The Dodgers, the Texas Rangers, we're going to open up with the Texas Rangers, and they spent almost $500 million on the middle infielders. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. We'll get to see them in the opening weekend for the Texas Rangers. And Chris Woodward, the former Blue Jay, is the manager of the Texas Rangers. He and Seager were together with the Dodgers, so that had something to do with it, you would think.
Amazing the amount of money that was spent before the lockout. These free agents signing, and then of course all this time off, and now we're seeing more sprinkling in. A little shocker with the Carlos Correa signing, though. in Minnesota. I remember waking up that morning and seeing that notification on my phone. I had to put my glasses on. I said, Minnesota.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
That came out of nowhere.
Nice play by the Yankees here on this pop-up. Son Brown is retired. Yeah, that surprised me. Trevor Story kind of surprised me going to the Boston Red Sox. Andrew Bogaerts is signed there. He has a nice lucrative contract. And Xander Bogaerts is a big part of that team. I mean, he is rock steady. He's a great face for the franchise, and I can't see them. I mean, for me, asking Xander Bogaerts to move off shortstop would be like asking Bo Bichette to move off shortstop for the Blue Jays.
Not happening.
I don't think it's happening. I mean, he plays next to Rafael Devers, and now Trevor Story will play second. But yeah, it's all kind of interesting how these teams are mixing, matching, and bringing in people. Is there one particular team you think that has done the best job in this offseason of shoring up their ball club?
Well, Texas comes to mind right away because of the money they've spent. But my question is, you still have to pitch.
Yeah, you have to pitch.
And that's why when they come to town for opening night and opening weekend, you still have to pitch. Now, they did sign, was it John Gray? They got for $4 and $56 million, I believe it was. And there are other pieces. I saw Calhoun was there. But yeah, it's a bit of a shocker to me that you're going with a pitching staff that was really at near the bottom of the American League last year, and not a whole lot of necessarily changes or huge upgrades. So that plays into the Blue Jays offense. It'll be certainly challenging for the Blue Jays pitching against that lineup with those additions. But so I mean, they stood out. It's not the one that I really liked per se. I still think that AL Central is so up for grabs all the time. And yes, the Chicago White Sox are first and foremost. I get it. And they added Graveman and Kelly, and that's a wonderful thing. But man, any of those teams that we know that we'll see the Tigers in a couple of days, they're not there yet. But if they keep going, that's a place to be in the AL Central.
I just had a conversation with George Brett the other day, and he was raving about his team. He said Bobby Witt Jr. is a player. And Mondesi's back, and he's healthy, and I think they just agreed to a contract with Mondesi to avoid arbitration. But he also likes the fact that they signed Zach Greinke. So you bring Greinke in with all those young pitchers, and all he's going to do is just be there for those kids, and they will suck up the information like a sponge. But Brett is really high on his team, and not just because he's there, but he thinks that they have some chances of making some noise in the Central. He likes Whit Merrifield. He has liked him forever. He knows Zach Greinke better than anybody. Greinke lived with George in his rookie season in Kansas City, because as George told me, he said Zach was just a little bit older than my kids. So now you got Greinke back there to go along with those young pitchers in Kansas City. And you know, Sal Perez is still there, and he seems to just go on and on and on. But the offense, I think, in Kansas City is going to be pretty interesting. And now, if they can improve their pitching a bit, they might make some noise in the Central. Spencer Horwitz grounds out. That's the final out of the bottom of the 8th inning. And it's been a very interesting afternoon here in Dunedin. We'll go to the 9th when we come back. For the Blue Jays, it'll be Kyle Johnson, a 25-year-old that was picked up in a trade with the Washington Nationals back in July of 2019.
Spent some time between New Hampshire and Buffalo last season. Excellent job in New Hampshire in 21 games, a 1.74 ERA. The walks were up a little bit. He corrected that a little bit in Buffalo, but you're always looking for those pieces that were parts of trades in the past that can surface. Kyle Johnston getting a look as a non-roster invitee to camp.
You're right. The one thing I noticed about watching and looking into Kyle Johnson, he throws strikes. He has had a good run of throwing strikes and doing a pretty good job with both his fastball and his breaking ball. There's a ground ball hit to short, backhanded, thrown across the diamond in time. One up, one down here in the 9th. Eric Stevens makes a nice play there at shortstop and goes across the diamond in time. We mentioned Johnson's 25 years old. He was a 6th-round pick by the Washington Nationals out of the University of Texas. Randolfo Duran is a pinch hitter here, going for the DH, Miguel Andujar. Another ground ball. This one right to De Los Santos. He throws him out. Second baseman makes good play. 2 ground ball outs for Johnson here in the 9th. Well, it's been a good day overall. The pitching was good. Started by Yusei Kikuchi. He went 2 innings, no hits, no runs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. He faced 7 batters. Ross Stripling got an extended outing. He threw 36 pitches over 3 innings of work. 3 innings, 2 hits, a single run allowed, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Trevor Richards gave up a run on 2 hits. He had a couple of strikeouts. Oh, check that. He didn't strike out anybody. Trent Thornton had a clean inning. Faced 3 batters in his 1 inning of work. Casey Lawrence gave up a couple of hits. He had a couple of strikeouts, no runs in his inning of work. And now Kyle Johnston. Johnston has 2 quick outs here in the 9th. This is Michael Beltre. Took over in center field for Estevan Florial. But you look at the overall pitching, it's been terrific all spring long. Today, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts for the staff, and that's something that'll put a smile on Pete Walker's face.
They did it the other day when we broadcast the game. They did it against Detroit yesterday. So you look for that consistency. It's hard to do all spring, but low walks, high strikeouts, pretty good formula.
And sure, and Pete talked about it during his interview earlier in this game. He said when you have such a good offense, it takes pressure off the pitchers. You don't have to worry about giving up a run or 2. And Trevor Richards, the run he gave up came after a single and a double. Ground ball, gave up a run on a ground ball, but nothing more. He didn't let it spin out of control. He just said, okay, well, I'll give up a run. I'm not worried about that, but we've got a good lead, and all I care about is getting out of this inning.
Well, and what's so impressive, too, when you go back to the beginning of this ball game, the first inning, these Blue Jays hitters are facing Jordan Montgomery. He will be in the rotation for the New York Yankees. But they did it with a bunch of singles. These are powerful hitters, but they weren't home runs. They weren't doubles in the gap. 3 straight singles by Springer, Bichette, and Guerrero before Gurriel's RBI double, and then a sacrifice fly by Chapman and a base hit by Biggio. So that's good to see, too. You can use the term small ball if you want, but point being, these are more complete hitters that can beat you so many ways.
And you know what? When you send 8 batters to the plate in the first inning, I mean, that puts pressure on the opposing team. You're going to score some runs. You're going to give your top of the order another at bat in the second inning, and that's where all the danger is. Springer, Bichette, and Guerrero, top of that order.
And this is still relatively early, even though we are running out of time. It's still relatively early in terms of games. Guys don't have a lot of at-bats yet, so it's good to see that against one of the Yankees' regular starting pitchers. And sure, Montgomery will be building up more and be stronger 2 weeks from now as well. But this is usually the time where pitchers are a little ahead of the hitters. Not so right now.
And Montgomery making his first start, too. I don't think the Yankees are overly concerned about his outing today. He pitched a total of 1 inning. Remember, he came out of the game in the first inning because of a pitch count, came back to finish up his outing. He threw 49 pitches, first time out for New York. Montgomery was charged with 3 earned runs, all in the first inning on 6 hits, had a walk, and struck out 1. None of the other pitchers figure to be pitching for the Yankees this summer, at least at the start of the season. And chopped foul right at home plate. To give you an idea about the limited action, this is just the 5th game for the Blue Jays, and the most at-bats anybody has, Mallex Smith, has 9 at-bats. So, you know, they're not going to worry about it. But you mentioned it. George Springer has a couple of bats in the minor leagues. Bo Bichette hit a home run in a minor league game the other day. So they're getting their work in.
And it's such a fine balance for the managers because you really have to communicate with the players. Do you want to go get extra at-bats over in the minor league side? Sure, that's great. But at the same time, you also don't want to push too hard and do too much too early, because we know that Those soft tissue issues always popping up in spring trainings. We talk about them every single year. They're just trying to start this season healthy.
Swing and a miss, and that'll do it. That's the ball game. The Blue Jays win 9-2 as they broke out early, scored 3 runs in the first, 5 more in the fourth, and win it 9-2.
Well, very impressed again with that first inning by Blue Jays hitters, piecing together a bunch of singles. These are all very powerful hitters. We're usually talking about how they hit the ball out of the ballpark, but on the pitching side, Kikuchi, a little bit of struggle in the first inning with his command, but came back and struck out the side in the second. Really seemed to settle in. But Ross Stripling going 3 innings, and this is very intriguing to me. Ross Stripling is that swingman that will probably start some ball games for this Blue Jays club this season.
Overall, a very good day for the Blue Jays. They improved their spring record to 4-1. Overall, the Yankees fall to 1-3-1. Blue Jays will be back on Sportsnet tomorrow from Clearwater. They'll take on the Philadelphia Phillies. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great rest of your afternoon.